The story kicks off on a battlefield, where this big stone beast is slamming the ground while a guy with a shield is trying to hold it off. It looks intense, but turns out it's just a low-level dungeon called Margoyle. The shield guy takes a punch straight to the face. Then someone in the back tells him to stop getting smacked around like that and to learn to deflect the attack to the side. Meanwhile, another group jumps in and says it's time to attack. One of them slashes the creature and the whole team charges, hitting the golem from all sides. That just makes it mad, and it activates some kind of red power. The smaller guy with the shield warns everyone to be careful. It's entered Berserker mode, and tells them to stick close to him. The mages start casting spells, and one of them, wearing a cap, yells at the clueless guy in the back to give him some mana because he's out. That clueless guy, that's Sano Haruto, your typical low-tier hunter with the ability to give mana to others. From his dumb expression and trash ability, you can already tell, yeah, he's our protagonist. The guy not only has a lame skill, but he also has to go through this whole ritual just to throw mana onto other people's backs. Then the golem charges again, but this time our protagonist tosses mana into his friend's back, making it easy for the guy to use magic and finish off the creature. The dungeon's low level, sure, but man, everyone looks completely wiped out. Then this musclehead walks over and tells Sano that since he barely helped with the raid, he can at least clean up the rest of the place. The group starts wondering why a guy with a damage-dealing ability is stuck playing mana support. The one in orange says that technically, the kid is an attacker. He just happens to only have one skill, generating mana. At least it's basically infinite mana. Honestly, that ability's kinda broken, even if the guy's weak, right? Let's be real. That's exactly what the other guy's thinking too. But then he explains that in this world, mages can also pull mana from priests, so it's not that special. And the dude in the cap adds that that's why this useless guy hasn't even hit level 30 after 5 years. While he's swinging a pickaxe at some rocks, Sano thinks to himself how these jerks keep talking loudly on purpose so he hears them. Still, no matter what they say, he's not giving up. Then we cut to the Great Sage Guild building. Stiving his hands on a desk, the protagonist demands to know why they're suddenly trying to transfer him to the production department. The old guy says, unfortunately, Sano has to understand. There's no one left in the company who can keep up with him on hunts. You just can't be a professional hunter at level 29 when all you've got is a single mana generation skill. Sano tries to argue that he's incredibly useful. He can provide nearly unlimited mana. Plus, he's about to hit level 30, which is a big deal. The guy just says that most mages and healers already have mana absorption skills, so what Haruto does isn't all that useful. Why does he think reaching level 30 is going to change anything? He adjusts his glasses and says the decision's already been made by the higher-ups, so he better just accept it. Right then and there, Haruto realizes, yep, if he refuses this, he's gonna get kicked out of the guild. Later, sitting at a bench, he remembers the guy's final words. Unfortunately, we just don't see any potential in you. Poor guy's sitting there, wondering how he ended up unemployed out of nowhere. The truth is, most people assume his ability is just absorbing mana and transferring it to teammates. But it's actually a little different, though obviously, he never told anyone the full story. As he stares at an onigiri in his hand, a screen pops up asking if he wants to copy the item using Ctrl+C. He clicks yes, a light flashes, and boom, the onigiri is duplicated in his hand. That's right, folks. He's got copy and paste. Basically, he copies, then he pastes. Yep, he's Windows Kun. The catch? Anything he copies disappears the second it leaves his hand, which means no copying OP gear and becoming Elon Musk level rich. Even worse, just to copy this dumb little dagger of his, he needs to be level 90. So what's he doing to help people for now? He copies his own mana, keeps the original and hands off the copy to others. Since he keeps the original, he never runs out. He'd tried copying other skills before, but they all have ridiculous requirements. All the guy wants is to gain a few more levels. That's it. Then life would finally change. The second he can start copying gear, game over. That's a whole different ballgame. Then he sees a news article on his phone. The Kalisha Dragon's Longsword has just arrived in Japan. This is a super rare, ridiculously overpowered item, because the moment you use it, you instantly level up 200 times. Man, I've played a lot of RPs, but I've never seen something this busted. Straight up broken. Only catch? You need to be level 30 or higher to use it. He immediately imagines himself with that sword. If he could just copy it once and keep the copy forever, boom, he'd be level 230. But the problem is the sword's just now arriving in Japan and its durability is super low, which means it'll only survive a few more hunts. So instead of using it, they're putting it on display. And theoretically, that's his perfect chance to copy it. All he needs desperately is to hit level 30 within a week. A few days pass, and now I have no idea what this monster is. Looks like some flying bats, maybe, or giant blood-sucking mosquitoes. Wait, no, 6 legs. So it's probably spiders, right? Although honestly, I don't know why I called those things bloodsuckers with mouths full of teeth. Man, they're dangerous. This was an unregistered dungeon, not recognized by the guild. A blond guy looks back and asks for mana. Our beloved son of Haruto is there, doing the only thing he knows how to do. Thanks to him, the guy casts a giant flame and sets everything on fire. Meanwhile, our poor loser can only sit there thinking about how insane the gap is between them. He peeks at his stat window, praying he leveled up. Then out of nowhere, another guy appears behind him and tells him to quit staring at windows. Nothing's gonna change just like that. Haruno apologizes, saying he just got a little distracted. That's when the guy adds that if he keeps standing around like this, he's gonna have to pay a spectator's fee for the dungeon, which would be a beer after the run. At least that guy's chill, which means of course he's gonna die. Poor dude. His name's Aikiya Awa. Let's see how many seconds he lasts in the story. Haruno's actually feeling hopeful. I mean, sure, it's an unregistered dungeon, but at least here he's got a chance to level up. They keep walking deeper into the cave. Then suddenly, one of them stops and tells everyone to get ready. They're entering the queen's chamber. Behind a pillar, there she is, a giant creature surrounded by a nest full of eggs. Her name? Alexa, level 80 spawn. Yikes, just a bit above our protagonist's pay grade, huh? He's already thinking that if one of those legs touches him, he'll get turned into vapor. One guy asks why Haruto looks so scared. Wasn't he gonna fight? Sure, the spider looks easy, but you gotta stay sharp. If you get caught in her web, you'll be stuck there till she eats you alive. Also, better steer clear of the eggs. Aggressive little monsters could hatch at any second. Then the blonde guy yells at the leader to stop explaining everything like Haruto's some kind of tourist. So yeah, Haruto just stands there quietly, doing what he does best, nothing. Then Blondie, being the genius he is, stomps forward in a huff and kicks a rock straight into the web. Instantly, the queen wakes up and lunges to bite. The tank throws himself in front of the hit, shouting that now they're screwed, all thanks to this dumb mage. But the dude's a beast. He blocks the attack and even slices off one of the spider's legs. He tells everyone to scatter and keep away from the eggs. The whole group starts wailing on her from all sides. Swords fly into her mouth while our boy Haruto's hiding behind a pillar. Kinda wild. They're actually putting in work against a level 80 boss. Then suddenly, the spider turns around and aims her butt at everyone. The tank yells at them to take cover behind the pillars. But the blonde idiot is already charging up another fireball, talking big about how they've beaten her tons of times, so there's nothing to be scared of. He fires off his attack and web bombs go everywhere, slamming into the cavern walls. His fire spell collides but doesn't seem to do any damage. He keeps yelling about pride and how he's not going to give up on this attack. Haruno tries to warn him, but it's already too late. The guy just keeps casting. The tank with the headband screams at him to stop before the eggs hatch. But Haruto can see it's over. The eggs all start cracking open. The tank tries to say something, but gets smacked and blasted into the ground. Right then, Aikiya shows up yelling it's coming from every side. And yep, webs from all directions wrapping everyone up, pinning them to the floor, the pillars, everything. Please let Blondie be the first to die for this dumbass move. And yes, he screams in desperation and gets crushed. Our boy son of Haruto is now stuck to a pillar, watching his buddy get chewed up. Time to place your bets. Option 1. He levels up the last second, copies his skill, and saves the day. Option 2. A hot giant waifu appears and rescues him. Option 3. He dies like a fool and the story ends right here. Welp, after the spider finishes wrecking his friend, she lunges and slashes at Haruto, cutting the web and sending him flying. Blood shoots out of every hole in his face. And right then, the system asks if he wants to paste what he copied. That's when the cheeky bastard smirks and says his ability isn't that useless. Other stuff disappears when he copies and pastes, but he doesn't. That's why every time he enters a dungeon, he makes a copy of himself as a backup. So just like in a game, when he dies, he pastes himself somewhere else and the old body vanishes. Goddammit, I made 56 bets and none of them were right. Turns out the copy he makes is kind of inside himself, like he's a walking clone. So when he dies, he just respawns, dies again, respawns again. Now he's back behind the pillar, all bent and busted up. He can't die, but he also can't escape. Then he sees one of the guys still stuck in the webs, the leader of the one we knew was gonna die, begging for help. But Haruto knows there's no saving that guy. The boss is tearing everything apart, and Haruto decides to try something. He's pissed that after everything, he might die without landing even one hit. Right as the boss attacks, Haruto swings at her leg, managing to redirect the blow. Right at that moment, he earns some experience from landing a successful hit and finally levels up. But just as he looks at the notification, bam, the boss lands a massive hit right to his chest. Once again, he had backed himself up and copy-pasted into existence. The problem? His attacks still do absolutely nothing to this boss. But our sneaky boy's about to pull a re-zero move. Doesn't matter if he has to die hundreds of times, one day, he'll take this monster down. The creature attacks again, and Haruto charges in. He mutters that scratch by scratch, eventually he'll win. 3 days go by. After countless deaths and most of his teammates' weapons breaking, Haruto has finally grown. A lot. Meanwhile, the Spider Queen is looking rough. She can't heal from any of the damage he's done. She launches another wave of webbing, but this time he dodges. He's already getting used to the speed of her projectiles. She swipes at him again. He jumps, scales her leg, and climbs straight to her head. Yelling for her to just die already, he drives his sword straight into her brain, which immediately snaps in half like a cheap twig. She throws him off, crashes him into the ground, and lets out a roar. But just as she's about to bite him, cracks spread across her body. Her HP finally hit 0. She explodes into pieces. Haruto just lies there, totally drained. After that many deaths, his brain's basically mush. Then, ding, 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 a flood of level-up notifications fills his screen. The reward for defeating the Great Spider Queen is granted. Our Marvel hero over here decides to go check on his friend after 3 whole days. But just as he's heading out, something slams down right next to him. He looks up and, oh hell no, a bunch of spiders. Get out of here, you freaky albino creeps. Problem is, he's got no weapon, and the guy next to him, completely wrecked. He doesn't want to just leave him to die. Flashback, 2 hours earlier on a bridge in Tokyo. In a car, a soldier named Morgrant, level 112, asks a girl named Errors how many times she's been to Japan. She's a mage, level 131, and says this is her 2nd time. He asks if it's her mom's homeland. She says it doesn't matter. She's here for one reason. There's something she wants to find in one of Japan's dungeons. Grant says it'd be great if she found it, but she warns him not to get too involved in her business or he'll end up getting hurt. Just then, a voice over the intercom announces that the truck is crossing the dungeon Rainbow Gate, or the Rainbow Bridge dungeon, whatever. It's a rainbow. It's a bridge. There's a dungeon involved. All electronics will be disabled for 5 minutes due to electromagnetic waves. Apparently, there's a dungeon right underneath the bridge, and the guy was eager to check it out. Nearby, in an office, a hunter named Shinoda Satoru, level 21. So yeah, he's small time. He complains that this place is so boring. His buddy beside him says that's probably because the guy only got the job through connections. And let's be real, without connections, you're not getting into a place like this. Suddenly, a slime bumps into Satoru's leg. He crouches to pick it up, saying this one's kinda cute. Way better than the creepy ones you find inside dungeons. He asks if it's normal for these little guys to be outside. The other guy says yeah, but he sounds nervous. Then bam, something slams into Satoru's back. He turns around and just the shadow is enough to tell. A giant ogre is about to turn him into jam. Yep, game over. That guy's paced now. Back in the present, our dear Sano Haruto survived once again with his trusty Crawl C, Troll V trick. He's aiming to hit level 50 next. That's usually when things start getting easier. You can finally find decent dungeon groups. And of course, better parties mean better loot and better XP. Feeling good about life and thinking it's finally his time to shine. Suddenly, a group pushes past him, yelling for him to get out of the way. He's confused, trying to figure out why everyone's running around like headless chickens. Someone up front asks if they're really going in before the major guilds arrive. The other guy says they have to because the legendary sword is being brought in. Wargrant gets the news. Good news. The sword's nearby. Bad news, a dungeon just erupted in that area. On top of the association building, some aircraft are being prepped for launch. The hunters seem more focused on protecting the legendary longsword because, yeah, that thing's worth a fortune. But someone steps up and says to follow her orders. She's the leader. The most no-nonsense girl we've seen in days announces that the association's priority is killing monsters and rescuing civilians. As she boards the ship, she says everything else can be discussed later. That's when someone in the back starts yelling that they want to go too. Nanas ignores it and tells everyone to board. And of course, it's our boy Sano, begging to go with them. He says he's been in the guild for 5 years and knows everyone. He admits he's not that strong, but he wants to help save civilians. She looks confused, probably wondering what in the world this walking trash can thinks he's going to do. So there's Haruto giving this dramatic speech about how every bit of help is needed to save lives. Nanas, clearly more interested in leaving than debating, just sighs and lets him board. Next thing you know, bam, he's inside. She casually mentions she heard he saved some junior back at the spider nest. Sounds like he's a real altruistic guy. He thanks her, while thinking to himself that he only saved that poor kid because there was profit in it. Just like now, he's only here for the loot. The other hunters start talking. Didn't we stabilize the Rainbow Bridge dungeon like 3 weeks ago? Why is it bursting open again? Nana says stuff like this happens all the time. That's why they always have to be ready. Their job is to make sure the disaster from 15 years ago never happens again. Cue flashback. Thanks, Haruto. Back then, a bunch of dungeon gates exploded all at once. There weren't enough hunters in the world to deal with it. Creatures just roamed freely. It was during that chaos that Haruto's mom got turned into a pancake under a car. But on that day, he also saw some kind of transcendent being, like something from another dimension. That's when he got his ability, or his curse. Hard to tell. All the voice said was 20 years. He still doesn't know what that meant. Is it the duration of the skill? His lifespan? Something else? But he does know he's got a mark on his neck, and the time is ticking. He's convinced the entity only showed up because of the great disaster. Maybe the Hourglass mark is counting down to the next one. If that's true, then he's got 5 years left. 5 years to become the strongest hunter he can. Back at the bridge. Boom. The gate's blown wide open. Cars are flying like rocks. Chaos everywhere. The hunters on the ground are already overwhelmed. Not enough people to protect the civilians. A little goblin tries to stab one kid, who manages to land a sword strike to the gut. But just as another goblin comes from behind, someone slices it midair. Wait, these two actually survived that pissed off orc from earlier. These guys are tougher than they look. The guy tells the spoiled rich kid to focus. Next time he's not saving him again. Turns out, when that orc was about to squash them both, he basically hugged the kid out of harm's way. Barely saved them. Shinoda Satoru, looking all emotional, thinks, "This guy's saved me twice now." He asked about reinforcements, but the guy says something's off. Still, they should be on the way. For now, best move is to cross the bridge and link up with them. No solo hero plays until backup arrives. Meanwhile, a giant bear is hammering a truck. It's a level 190 monster. Behind it, Grant is nervously asking if the truck's gonna hold. Ares says not to worry, she's using her maximum level defensibility. Even a level 400 beast couldn't break it that easily. Everyone looks up and sees the ships from the Great Sage arriving. Wait, nope, not the Great Sage ships. Grant yells, "Igor, are you wanting to look out?" Turns out, what they were really seeing was a giant dragon named Kueisha. Nanas tells everyone to brace for impact. The beast charges up an attack. Boom, explosion hits the ship directly. The whole bridge shakes, collapses. Okay, but wait, where the heck are the guild ships? From the looks of it, they're above the dragon. Or maybe not. Honestly, I'm confused too. 1 second it's the bridge. Next, it's the ship. He shoots another fireball, and this time, yeah, it hits the ship for real. Total chaos. People jump out midair to fight. Nanas has already hit the ground. One of the officials says the association's taking over now. They all look confident, but let's be real, these guys have side character Death Flag written all over them. Nanas, meanwhile, asks about a certain hunter, Sol Hajin. Sometimes they use his Korean name, sometimes Japanese. I'm confused too, don't worry. But she seems confident this guy's not dying here. Then she blasts a Hellfire spell, which kinda looks like water, but hey, it hits the boss square on. Back to Haruto. He's midair using a spiderweb skill on a lamppost, swinging to safety like a nerdy Spider-Man. Everyone else is dying left and right, and this dude's still worried about copying that legendary dragon sword. The association group's pushing across the bridge. They're all anxious, saying it's way too dangerous for them. Of course, no one wants to fight Kueisha, but it's the fastest way to close the gate. Meanwhile, Haruto's casually strolling through monster corpses all diced up. These things weren't that strong. The real problem with wolves is that they never come alone. Nearby, Shinoda Satoru's slashing through enemies, yelling his lungs out. But his buddy, the one from earlier, got bitten in the ribs and is not doing great. Haruto takes a quick look at the situation, trying to analyze things, and decides, yeah, not my problem. He's got bigger things to worry about. The big guy, the one who saved the friend earlier, yells at Haruto to run. Says there's no way he's surviving this mess without a top-tier hunter. Right then, a massive paw slams down nearby, and an entire pack shows up. These were moon wolves. And the issue with them? Even though they're only level 15, they roll in huge numbers. Man, Shinoda Satoru may not be the protagonist, but the guy's got guts. He yells that if his senior got hurt protecting him, then he'll die protecting his senior. That's when Haruto remembers saving that team leader in the spider dungeon. And oh boy, here he goes again. Time to do something stupid, huh? A wolf leaps at Haruto, and by the looks of it, he's about to get chomped. Oh no, wait, I thought Haruto was gonna save him. But the kid turns and slices the wolf's head off himself. Another one rushes in from behind. And again, the kid manages to defend. Guess Haruto really doesn't want to help, huh? Then a third wolf lunges for the back of the kid's neck. Finally, our protagonist shows up and shoulder charges the thing midair. Come on, Haruto, maybe bring a weapon next time, yeah? He asks if the kid's okay. The boy says he is, but tells him to look around. Yeah, the number of creatures is still massive. The kid says Haruto should run, even if they're low-level monsters that can't handle this many. But Haruto just smirks and says, This is the perfect situation for me. The kid, who honestly feels more like Haruto's little brother at this point, looks totally confused. Haruto pulls something from his inventory and says he was kind of annoyed he couldn't sell it, but now he's excited to see how it interacts with his skill. The wolves pounce and Satoru screams in panic, but that's when Haruto slaps a Troll plus V, pasting the giant spider web skill he copied from the boss. Suddenly, the wolves are all tangled up, choking and flailing, crashing into each other. They're stuck together like spaghetti in a meatball mess, completely unable to fight back. Within seconds, a towering mass of tangled up monsters forms, and Haruto is just standing there like a boss, leveling up like's good. Exactly as he expected, an area immobilization skill is perfect for swarming enemies. Satoru is lying there like, who is this guy? He asks if Haruto was sent by the Hunter Association, and Haruto, technically not lying, says yeah, after all, he was on the same helicopter. The injured guy is super humble, even asks Haruto to carry Satoru to safety so he won't die. But of course the kid's like, no way, I'm leaving my senior behind. Haruto, amazed by this ride-or-die loyalty, thinks to himself, these guys would die for each other. I wouldn't die for anyone. Feeling slightly moved, he opens his inventory, pulls out a potion, and hands it to the two. Says it's not enough to let the guy keep fighting, but at least it'll stop him from dying. The injured guy stares at him like, dude, this potion's insanely expensive. Haruto just replies, I want to see you make it out of here. Take your senior with you. Satoru's clearly falling in love now. This kid's down bad. He's all emotional, thanking Haruto, introducing himself as Kang Seon. And okay, note for later, new names that show up stay in Korean, but all the old ones, forever in Japanese. Haruto couldn't care less. He just starts walking off, but then suddenly turns around and asks, hey, have you guys seen the international hunters around? 'Cause yeah, he knows they're the ones carrying that legendary sword. Meanwhile, back with the big old bear closing in on the truck. Eric's is casually holding it off and putting it to sleep like it's no big deal. Grant's impressed she has so many non-lethal abilities. Suddenly, a projectile flies in. He reacts instantly and cuts in midair. He mutters that it was only a matter of time before someone tried to swipe the sword during all this chaos. Araz's face immediately changes. A masked group steps forward, saying he's sharp for noticing, so he better just hand it over now. But before Grant can respond, they already attack. Grant blocks and shouts that they're not easy targets. There's a reason they were chosen to protect the sword. He tells Ares to back off, but Dude charges in, of course. Ares tells him not to, like we all knew he's about to die. Yup. He freezes mid-attack, drops to his knees, coughing up blood. Completely stunned, he has no clue what just happened. Ares explains. They use a potion that blocks mana absorption, which means if he tries to use any skills, he dies. The masked leader congratulates them, saying they never underestimate their targets. Ares comments that they must be seriously desperate if they're using items banned by the association. A magic circle lights up on her finger, and she says things are about to get very uncomfortable. One of them tries to hit her with a fireball, mocking her. A mage with no mana might as well die. Bad move. In 1 second, 30% of his head and shoulder is just gone. Instant KO. Guy drops like a brick. The enemy boss starts charging to grab the sword, but now their group is getting shredded, thrown off the bridge, eaten alive. The masked commander realizes, wait a minute, Ares didn't kill the monster. She just put it to sleep. With no choice, he flees, leaving all of his teammates dead on the floor. Grant immediately realizes they can't put that boss to sleep again. Ares confirms there's no mana left to use and everything she did before was just disabling its power. Grant mutters that, like he always said, one day she'd die because she refuses to use violence. She smiles and replies, that might be true, but you won't. And with that, boom, she charges forward, activating some kind of heroic final power-up. Dear God, the guy screamed at her not to do it, but she kept running straight toward the bear. Obviously, the anti-mana poison was still active. She was coughing up blood the whole way. She kept pushing forward, but she couldn't absorb anything. And then the monster lunged to smack her with a massive paw. That's when someone hit CTRL plus V, baby. Aw man, just when I wanted to see what was going to happen. The chapter ended right there. I thought he was going to give her some mana so she could put the beast to sleep again. But nope. Turns out he wrapped the boss up in a massive web cocoon and slammed it to the ground. Like, what the hell, my guy? That ability of yours is seriously busted. The thing looked like a full-on mummy now. Once again, Satoru, his buddy, was just blown away, praising our boy, saying he's amazing. Haruto wanted to get both of them out of there ASAP, but it wasn't that easy. He asked if they were okay, and if they were with the association. Ares seemed confused. Maybe she didn't understand the language he was speaking. Grant stood up, though, immediately asked if Haruto was there to steal the sword. Haruto, king of lies, said of course not. He was there to protect it, naturally. But they weren't about to trust some random guy after just being ambushed. Looking around, Haruto finally got a clear picture of what had happened to everyone chasing after that sword. And yeah, if he made it out of here without being chopped into pieces, he'd be lucky. Then Satoru pulls out their hunter registry and asks why they, the ones who saved them, were being treated like criminals. Haruto was thrilled. Finally, this kid was useful for something. Since the timing was perfect, Haruto pulled out 2 mana potions and offered them. Told them to drink up. Clearly, they weren't doing too great. Those potions cost so many dungeon runs, but he was willing to risk it to get closer to the sword. The two of them, kinda out of options, took the potions, hesitated a moment, then accepted. Meanwhile, Ares kept her eyes locked on the boss. More association ships were flying overhead. Finally, the rest of the guilds were arriving. The musclehead commented that they were fine for now, but those new guys would have to deal with the boss still standing there. As she ran across the top of the monster, she shouted that the boss was about to enter Phase 3. And with all the other guilds arriving, the priority was evacuating all civilians. Suddenly, someone asked when he'd be free to do whatever he wanted. A tattooed guy wearing glasses called out to Nanis. All cool and casual, he says, "Long time no see." Name, Shirasaki Masato. Level, 503. Class, Dark Mage. Yeah, this guy's a little over the top. Nanis, poor girl, all sweet and innocent, asked why he was there. He just shrugged and said, "Isn't it obvious?" She told him not to do it, but it was already too late. A massive magic circle had appeared beneath him. Even as it formed, she kept begging him not to go through with it. Because if that spell didn't kill the boss, things were about to get way worse. The guy said it's exactly because she worries about little things like this that she won't ever get far. He was planning to kill that thing alone and collect a dozen high-tier drops. Then boom, a black lightning spell goes off, and the boss gets wrapped in a storm of energy, flames pulling it upward. Nanis yells for everyone to run, but the floor starts crumbling. The bridge collapses again and everything begins to fall. Below, Haruto pops up looking all innocent. At least he didn't die. That's something. He even managed to use his web skill to save the 4 fools who almost fell. But the second he climbs up, bam, he comes face to face with the boss and its massive teeth. He wonders if it's dead or if someone already captured it. That's when Shirasaki shows up and tells him that for a low-level hunter, he's done quite a bit. Seeing the emblem on his chest, Haruto instantly realizes this guy's from Future Guild, one of the top 3 in the country. And our boy's got guts. He even asked Shirasaki why he wasn't helping to evacuate civilians. I thought for sure he was gonna get roasted, like, "Who do you think you are, scrub?" But no, Shirasaki just says the civilians have already been evacuated and Kuesha doesn't exactly look alive anymore. He walks over to the spider web and seems genuinely impressed. Didn't expect it to be used like that. Suddenly, all of Haruto's webs dissolve, and the bear boss gets shredded. Of course, Haruto is freaked out because all Shirasaki did was wiggle his finger. But hey, since Haruto was the one who immobilized it, he starts leveling up like crazy. On top of that, he gets a reward for taking down the bear. Shirasaki hears the level up sounds and asks if he was the one who restrained the creature. He's surprised Haruto could pull that off, definitely didn't expect him to be the one. Apologizing for stealing the kill, he drops a claw on the ground and says Haruto can have it. Says stealing isn't part of his job. Haruto's about to say something when, bam, Nana shows up, calling out his name. She's all happy, just glad he's not dead. Shirasaki notices the two know each other and figures Haruto must be from the association. And every second, he's liking this kid less and less. Nanis asks if anything happened and Haruto just shrugs. Nah, nothing really. Then she asks for help moving the creature, which confuses him. Wouldn't it be easier to just kill it? She explains that once the boss hits Phase 2, they'll go full berserker, rampaging non-stop. And worse, given its size, it might even have a Phase 3, which would basically mean total citywide destruction. As Haruto's processing all this, just staring at the beast, the monster opens its eye and locks onto them. Nanis is scared. Shirasaki, loving it, says he's finally gonna get a better reward. Weirdly, Nanis turns and says she believes Haruto will survive. But Four Eyes over here says, no way, that kid's dead. Focus on the boss. They both rush in while she yells at Haruto to run. Haruto grabs a horn off the ground and says, I wasn't planning on doing this, but I guess I have to subjugate Kuesha before those two do. Excuse me? My guy just got bold all of a sudden. Satoru, ever the hype man, pops up again like, why'd you come back? Ares is watching the webs when Haruto tells her he has a favor. The situation's bad. Kudish is about to enter Phase 3, and when it does, it's gonna launch an attack at Ares that could destroy everything. If that happens, not only will a ton of people die, the sword will be lost too. That's why he needs to borrow the sword to finish off the boss and stop all that. He promises to return it right after using it. Well, after copying it, of course. He tries to explain a million different ways, but Ares just says it's impossible. They can't open the truck because it needs a huge amount of mana, which they don't have right now. Grant picks up on it. She didn't say no. She said it was impossible because they lack mana. And well, if there's one thing Haruto can do, it's supply mana. He immediately starts flooding her with mana. Ara's all flustered like, what is this feeling pouring into me? Hey now, girl, don't make it weird. With that, the seal on the truck is broken easily. Haruto jumps in, shouting thanks and promising to keep his word. Grant, understandably, is nervous. Either the kid's gonna steal the sword or he's gonna die with it. Both are bad. Eris, though, believes in him. After all, he restrained the bear instead of killing it. But Grant's like, that's not enough reason to trust someone. Finally, Haruto opens the truck's door and steps inside to grab the legendary sword. But of course, bam, one of the thieves shows up behind him and stabs him in the gut. His two teammates scream from up above, while those two level 100 goons just stand there like NPCs. Our boy crumples into the truck like trash. The thief opens the box, cackling that he finally got the sword. But as Haruto loses consciousness, his web ability deactivates. The truck breaks loose from the bridge and plunges into the river below. Could the comeback? C2RL plus V activates and Haruto reappears right behind the thief. No words, just shanks him in the shoulder, hard. The guy drops like a sack of garbage, and now the sword's finally in our boy's. First thing he does, of course, tries to Control plus C. But, error, user level too low to copy this item. I knew something was gonna happen. No way he could copy a legendary sword at level 30. Before Haruto could do anything, the guy he stabbed in the back, yep, that one, gets back up and stabs him again. Bro, seriously. Does this guy have Control plus C and Control plus V too? Dude's regenerating like a freak. What the hell? He reaches for the sword again, and this time looks like he's going for the kill. Haruto, already in agony, starts wondering if his Control plus V was still active. Then, Dagon's system message pops up. Due to interaction with a legendary sword, skill absorption has been copied. It boosts defense by 35%, grants lifesteal, and even has a berserker mode. Since Haruto's HP is down to 25%, the system automatically activates berserker mode. Meanwhile, up on the bridge, Koish is charging up another mega attack. Shirosaki and Nanis are struggling. They can't hold it off. Then suddenly, something flies from the center of the bridge, and before the dragon can finish, it gets sliced in half. No way. That had to be our boy. System confirms it. Koish defeated. Dungeon cleared. Alright, he did technically grab that busted sword that gives you plus 230 levels. Sure, he couldn't copy it, but at least he copied the skills. Back at the Hunter Association, everyone's buzzing about what happened on the bridge. Even though the crisis was resolved in under 2 hours, the media is still full of complaints. A guy named Fuwa Tokyo, president of Japan's Hunter Association, level 570 and a priest, shuts off the TV. He says they'll investigate how Koish was defeated. Nearby, Takeuchi Gu shows up, all tatted up like Mike Tyson, level 701. He says he's curious, of course. Bro, it's like showing up at a party where you don't know anyone and now you've got to meet every single person. Next guy, Shinoda Makoto, level 610, a healer from another guild. Yeah, they're all showing up now. Looks like a turf war is starting over the rights to farm that dungeon. Technically, it belongs to Great Sage, Haruto's guild, and to Nanis' team. Speaking of, look at Nanis in that suit. Girl's pulling a full-on businesswoman arc now. Then Mr. Tattoo Mike Tyson walks in all smug, accusing her guild of failing to handle the creature. Nanis sighs and slams her hand on the table. Whole room's on edge now. Girl didn't just knock, she broke the entire damn meeting table. Shirosaki even put up a barrier just to avoid being skewered. Everyone's looking around like, is this lady okay? Spoiler, no. Emotionally stable? Definitely not. Now Takeuchi's starting to lose it too, until someone calls his name. It's the association leader. He steps in, tells everyone to calm down, and apologizes on her behalf. Takeuchi says if Nanis keeps acting like this, she's gonna end up dead. Now I'm confused. Dude's level 700 plus, and she's just level 200 something. Gust levels aren't everything after all. Nanis straight up ignores him, stands up, and says she'll explain what happened on the bridge personally. Shirosaki was there too, so he's considered a witness. He says yeah, but won't confirm much, didn't see many rewards, so he's not sure how legit the kill was. The leader tries to keep things diplomatic, saying that Shirosaki's presence probably helped reduce the damage. Cue awkward applause. Shirosaki's fuming. You can tell he's missing a piece of the puzzle, and he's pissed. Swears he'll make Nanis pay for this humiliation, and of course he wants revenge on whoever stole his Koesha kill, our boy, obviously. No clue why he's so mad, but Nanis says she'll personally investigate everything that happened in the dungeon. She'll also question every single guild that delayed sending reinforcements. She turns and walks off like a boss, saying the matter's closed. Just then, Gran and Ares enter the room, saying they have more info on what went down. Greg reports that due to the chaos, the legendary sword was stolen. They need full cooperation. He hands over a folder, an official request from the International Association. Takeuchi, skeptical, says he heard they were the ones who unsealed the sword in the first place. Ares explains that's true. They had help from two hunters, Sano Haruto and Shinoda Satoru. Cue everyone freaking out. Wait, our boy Haruto still lead his sword with his sidekick. Everyone's scrambling to figure out who this Sano Haruto even is. The leader says he knows who Satoru is, but has no idea who this Haruto guy is. Meanwhile, Nanis is biting her tongue. She knows exactly who that bastard is. And Shirasaki's right next to her, grinning. He's ready for revenge. He asks Ares if she's talking about the guy who used the Queen Spider's web skill. Says he saw the kid struggling during the fight, but he's sure he was part of the association. And he definitely saw Nanis chatting with him. Scene change. Somewhere else, someone's looking at the sword. They ask, is this the Kalisha sword? The one we managed to steal? A guy named Kurosaki Takumi, level 301, stares at it, totally blown away. So in addition to being a sword that gives you 200 levels just by holding it. Oh, so you're level 101, huh? You sneaky little rat. Kurosaki comments that it was worth spending millions to trigger that dungeon collapse and force the boss to emerge. Even the masked guy looks confused. He caused the whole mess. Kurosaki wants to know why he lost all his allies in the process. Right away, the loser drops to his knees, apologizing and saying they ran into some weird guy, but he's already dead now. Oh, you can feel it. This poor sap just gave away key info about the incident. No way he's walking out alive. There's a briefcase full of cash on the floor, and Kurosaki tells him to take it, go enjoy life however he wants. The guy's celebrating like he won the lottery, but I'll bet every bill in that case he's about to get offed. Then Kurosaki casually asks, "You're not planning to sell info about the sword when you leave here, are you?" The guy jumps up like, "No way. I'd never do something like that." Starts backing away, ranting that the leader's a bastard who planned to kill them all from the beginning. And right then, Kurosaki cuts him down, saying, "The less people know, the better." Doesn't want anyone knocking on his door, apparently. The poor guy slams into the wall and is ripped in half. So yeah, anyone who bet against me, hand over the cash. Told yeah. And just from that one slash, the sword's durability drops from 10 to 2. What the hell, man? That's like 4 cuts left max. Next scene, and Harglass appears and whispers, "Remember, this was a gift." Suddenly, Haruno wakes up in bed, panicked. The tattoo-like mark on his neck is burning. He wonders if that cursed thing's acting up again. Then Satoru, the absolute menace, jumps in and hugs him tight, saying he thought he was gonna die. He starts rambling about a huge attack from the ocean that wiped out the boss. Another guy in the room, looking just as wrecked, asks if they were at the bridge. Our boy Haruto is so done with this conversation. He gets up, says the guy's way too hyper for someone who almost died, and goes off to get some rest. But the guy on the bed comments that despite appearances, the kid really just wanted to help. Turns out, it was Satoru who saved Haruto before Nanis and the others arrived. Then Haruno remembers, his guild's leader is Shinoda Makoto, and this kid is Shinoda Satoru. But he immediately brushes it off. No way this weakling's related to that guy. Cut to the Hunter Association office. Nanis asks if Sano Haruto is really dead. Grant confirms it and notes that she doesn't seem too surprised. She just replies it's not unusual for a hunter to die. The association leader says they contacted several guilds to help retrieve the sword. Ares adds that they'll need high-level hunters because she's already tracked down its location. The leader tells Ares she's impressive. He knew her team was good, but not that good. He didn't expect them to already know where the sword was. She explains that the sword emits a unique energy pattern, something she's able to detect. Nanis adds that before everything happened, nobody had any real intel on the sword, so it's easy to tell when someone steals it. And that's why they let Sano use it. Ares quickly reminds them that the sword only had 10 durability points, and it's already been used, so soon it might break entirely and disappear, along with the only lead she has on finding her mother, who vanished 15 years ago. Both of them are a little shocked. Nanis pulls out a file and says, yeah, she's not the only one who's been digging into people's backgrounds. She knows Ares has been holding onto that sword because it's her one hope of finding her missing mother. Suddenly, Ares stands up. I thought she was about to go full rage mode, but no. She just asks Nanis for help, says they can't let that sword vanish. Cut to the hallway. Our businesswoman Nanis is walking through the corridors, deep in thought. She knows those two are hiding something. And honestly, this whole thing about Hunter Sano dying doesn't make much sense. He didn't seem like the type to just give up. That's when Shinoda shows up, asking why she looks so grumpy. She brushes it off, asking what he's doing there. He says it's time for her to come back to the Sage Guild. Now this guy, I'm pretty sure he's the guild master, and definitely connected to Satoru somehow. After all, his name is Shinoda Makoto, and the kid's name is Shinoda Satoru. Nanas respond that the number of dungeons is only increasing, and they're losing hunters left and right. Meanwhile, the other guilds aren't helping. They're too busy turning into companies and profiting off fame. And the bridge disaster proved none of them were ready to act when it really mattered. That's why she's not going back. There's too much she needs to take care of the association. Then she drops it. Besides, there's too much left unresolved here, Dad. Wait, what? So she's Satoru's sister, and this guy is her dad. The whole family's getting involved now. All we're missing is his son-in-law, and hey, I know a certain boy who might fit the bill. Makoto just chuckles, tells her not to take it all so seriously, but he advises her to at least stop by the hospital before heading back. Speaking of hospitals, cut back to Haruto. My guy's already level 76. What the hell? He's the king of level-ups now. He's a little bummed he couldn't copy the sword, but the skills he got were more than enough. Especially that berserker mode, it saved his life. Not only did the sword give him a temporary boost of 200 levels, but berserker mode doubled his stats. That's how he managed to slice through a level 400 monster. And for that, he got a very interesting reward. Turns out, Haruto absorbed Kuisha's shockwave. Then the system evolved it, turning it into a new skill called Resonant Frequency. Oh, and on top of that, his spiderweb skill leveled up to 2, which means now when he activates it, he can combine it with shockwave and life steal all at once. So yeah, our guy's in the elevator feeling himself. Not only is he stacking up skills, they're syncing together naturally. Oh wait, check this out. His level? 76 plus 200. Yo, editor, throw that status window back on screen for the squad. Y'all see this? Hope the editor actually did it. That little gremlin better have obeyed me. So when I said he copied the sword's effect, I thought it was just the skills. Nope, he copied the 200 level buff too. That's why he's strutting in the elevator like he's a certified badass, calling himself an elite level 276 hunter. Then he hears a familiar voice yelling across the hospital lobby. It's Nanis laying into someone, yelling that they should have evacuated when she warned it was dangerous. Our boy ducks for cover. He had no idea she got that scary. Also, what's she doing at the hospital? Oh, it's Satoru getting chewed out. He even calls her Winnie-chan, big sis. He blames her for not taking the monster out properly. That's when Haruto finally puts the pieces together. Her name is Nana Shinoda. Everyone's a Shinoda. Damn it. Now it makes sense why the strong guy didn't want Satoru to die and why Nanas wrecks this kid without hesitation. Then she asks about Sanano. Wants to know if he's here. Haruto obviously hides. Remember, he pretended to be part of the association when he got there. No one has any idea he's just some no-name from her guild, a supposed weakling. He tries to sneak out, only to bump into someone. Ah, so you survived. Oh no, it's Grant, calling him the sword thief. Worst possible timing. Haruto was trying to ghost everyone, and now this guy's ready for round 2. Grant grabs him by the collar and slams him against the wall. Whoa, chill, bro. You see a sword on him right now. But Grant's already figured it out. He demands to know why Haruto pretended to be part of the association. Haruto tries to explain, but Grant cuts him off, accusing him of working with the thieves. And just like that, Haruto realizes this guy's not gonna listen. Grant pulls a sword from a portal, about to strike. That's when Erez shows up, yelling for him to stop. Don't use an attack like that here. But Grant's pissed, says he won't be satisfied until this kid is dead. Whoa now, Blondie. Haruto might need to crawl plus C right about now. Resonant frequency activated. Grant's sword shatters instantly. Nanis and Satoru, just nearby, hear it all, and now Nanis' jaw is on the floor. Wait, Haruto has Kuisha's ability? Scene shift. Now we're on what looks like a damn K-pop stage. A girl's dancing, sweaty, glowing abs, crowd full of simps cheering. Next scene, she's hopping into a car. Name, Arita Sara, profession, idol group member. Wait, is she a hunter too? They didn't even show us her level. She says goodbye to her idol friends, grabs up her Ferrari, and drives off. The girls start gossiping. Is she rich? From a famous family? Where's she going in a Ferrari? Sarah's flooring it, hits a sharp turn, and almost slams into a Jeep. She slams the brakes, barely avoids it. Then leans out, yelling, "Watch where you're going." The driver gets out. Oh crap, it's Kurosaki Takumi, Longsword Steelerim. Sarah instantly shuts up. Clearly knows this guy. He casually drops a sword on her Ferrari like it's junk mail. Good concert, he asks. Hope so, because now we're headed to a dungeon. Says if she's down, things can go back to the way they were. No idea what's going on between them, but she's not thrilled to see him. Scene cuts back to the building where Haruto clapped Grant with the shockwave. Too bad, it's completely empty now. They were too late. Nanas asks if that means they'll have to wait for the sword to be used again to track it. Ara's awkward silence says it all. Yep. Then Haruto yells out, "The blood tower." It's something the guy who stabbed him mumbled when he was unconscious, but no one seems to know what the heck that is. Probably some shadowy secret organization. Grant's getting nervous now, says the sword won't last much longer if they keep wasting time. Nanas tells him not to worry. She knows someone who has the dirt on all these shady groups. Scene change, a little girl crawling on the ground. She got her ability from a strange being 15 years ago. At first, she thought she was just another awakened hunter, but then she realized her skill was something way more mysterious. Y'all ready? She's got Tral plus Z. That's right. Undo your mistakes, Beatty. Now I just want to know who's got Alt plus F4, though I guess that only works once. First thing she did, started buying up tons of old junk and restoring it for resale. Even though it wasn't technically a healing skill, she was making bank just by fixing stuff for people. Alright, so I get it now. Her ability isn't healing, it's more like rewinding people to a previous state. Makes sense. But now I'm wondering, does it have a limit? What actually happens when she uses it? The little girl was doing everything she could to make money. Her parents were in the hospital or in some critical condition. She tried to restore them back to their original state, but the problem was, she needed way more mana. With what she had now, the best she could do was heal minor wounds. That's why she started trying to increase her mana, venturing into dungeons as a porter. And when people got hurt, she'd pretend to be a healer too. But the thing is, people who awaken with a talent and not as true hunters have a way harder time surviving in dungeons. She asked a guy, basically discount Gojo, for a little mana, and he's like, "Why are you always begging?" Obviously, being a girl alone in dungeons means sketchy dudes always tried something. They just didn't expect her to slice them in half. Then someone walks in and says, "Well, that's interesting." It's none other than the snake himself, Kurosaki Takumi. And yeah, she's definitely Arita Sarah, the idol from earlier. He's tossing gifts around her house like it's Christmas and asking what happened to all the money she makes. Says her place is pathetic. Brew, she's got a whole mountain of champagne behind her eating sushi from a food delivery app. Relatable. I'm poor too. Kurosaki throws shade, saying it's weird for an idol like her to eat takeout 3 times a day. Then, of course, answers his own question. She eats what she wants, and when she gains weight, she just hits Tral plus Z and gets hot again. You figured she was always like this. After all, the day someone was dying in front of her, she stole their shield to sell it. He's convinced she's just like him. And once again, she does not look thrilled to be dealing with this dude. She tells him she doesn't care what this job is, but she wants to know why it has to be a dungeon this time. Why not just bring her the mana like he always does? That's when he pulls out the Kalish's sword and says he needs her to Tral plus easy that. But obviously, the mana cost is insane. He says not to worry. This will be her last dungeon. Surprised, Arita asks if he finally found the infinite mana generator item. He says no, but there's a good chance something like that will show up, and he asks her to go with him one last time. Honestly, it sounds more like she's about to repair that sword and die. Cut to the world of the future. Our boy Haruto and Nanas are there, and he finds it strange how these people seem to know more than the actual top guilds. Nanas explains when it comes to knowing about dungeons and wanting to end them, no one has better intel than this guy. Inside the meeting room, it's Shirosaki Masato. Yep, the smug scar-faced glasses guy himself. And he's talking about, you guessed it, the rumored infinite mana generator. Apparently in this world, infinite mana is just a casual Tuesday, like, oh yeah, that old broken cheat code happens. Nanas says that as far as she knows, that item sometimes shows up as a reward from the Golem's Snow Mountain dungeon. But the boss there, extremely hard to beat. Shirosaki says yeah, he knows. That's why they're mobilizing an entire team to get more info. And during that search, they stumbled on a group called Blood Tower. He'd never heard of them before, but apparently they're targeting the same Snowy Golem dungeon. At first glance, they look like a regular team, but they're way worse than expected. They kill, assassinate, and rob other dungeon teams. To Haruto, an infinite mana item is pointless, unlike literally the entire rest of the world. What he doesn't get is, how does this tie back to the sword? Why are they after the golem? Maybe they want to use the sword to kill the boss, but the sword's durability is low, and he's sure the sword's more valuable than some mana item. Nanas asks if the Blood Tower group has already found the boss. Why else would they be on the move? Ares jumps in, not a chance. That dungeon was discovered 15 years ago and still, no one's found the item. Haruto's about to ask how she knows that, but she cuts him off like, I'll explain. Chill. She's been researching this for a long time, and the Snow Mountain dungeon has a reputation. It's one of the toughest around. Most hunters straight up refuse to enter it. Shirosaki adds that places like that are exactly where assassin groups love to lure victims, and he's sure there's something being hidden there. Haruto asks when these guys are supposed to act. Turns out, it's soon. They just finished recruiting. As Haruto suspected, they've been planning this forever. Nana says if that's the case, then they need to move quickly. She calls out to Shirosaki and asks if he has a strike team ready to go. Hand on his chest, he says, absolutely not. Nana pushes, saying she knows full well that the future guild always keeps a backup team on standby for emergency dungeons. That's how he showed up at the bridge that day. Shirosaki, looking sheepish, admits she's got a lot of info, but not all of it is accurate. Truth is, he has no team ready to go into a place like that on such short notice. This isn't just any dungeon, it's the infamous Snow Mountain packed with golems. To be honest, the golems are only level 40, doesn't sound that scary. Still, Shirosaki is already out there with the full squad, and guess who's leading? Our boy Haruto. The team pushes forward, smashing golems only for them to immediately regenerate and counterattack. Shirosaki is grumbling. This is why I hate these kinds of places. Then out of nowhere, this Harry Potter-looking dude from the slums pulls out his wand, summons all the golems into one spot, splits them, and blows them the hell up. Red gem shards start raining from the sky. Those are the cores. He yells, destroy the cores. That's how you really kill a golem. Oscar, whoever that is, starts punching the ground, praising him like he's some kind of savior. Meanwhile, Haruto's just standing there with his little sword, doing absolutely nothing. A bit earlier, Eras had explained that once inside the dungeon, they needed to kill as many golems as possible. That was the requirement to trigger the mini-boss. She found out this dungeon type is called an induction dungeon. Haruto, and let's be honest, we too, has no idea what that means. Kurosaki chimes in, of course, saying he hates these two. Basically, it's a dungeon within a dungeon setup. In a normal hunt, you can skip past weak areas and go straight to the boss to save time. But in induction dungeons, you gotta clear each section to unlock the next. And if you mess up once, you lose access to the rest. Eras adds that 15 years ago, someone screwed up and caused a rupture inside this dungeon. Since then, no one really knows what's hidden here, or if anything shows up at all. That's why you not only have to kill the golems, you have to kill them fast. Because their rival team is also gunning for the key, and they need to beat them to it. Back in the action, Haruto's feeling confident now that he's got the sword. He hits Trill plus V on the spider web skill, and boom, one golem gets completely shredded. People are looking at him like, wait, did that guy just use a boss skill? Even Eras is freezing golems with ice spells while Moore finishes them off. Another golem comes swinging at the poor side characters. Yeah, they're done for. But then, she shows up. Doesn't even land a hit, just shows up to pose. Then she taps her hand and activates Kurisha's shockwave. Hold up, she has that skill too. I thought Haruto was supposed to be special, man. She checks on everyone. You all okay? They nod. But among the group, she spots someone trying and failing to hide their face. Calls them out, and yep, it's Satoru again. Here comes the Chaos Gremlin. He tries to defend himself, saying he's officially part of Haruto's group, so of course he's here. Wait, when did Haruto get a whole group? Flashback to the hospital. When Haruto said he was going into the dungeon, Satoru threw a full tantrum, screaming about wanting to go on one more hunt with Senpai. Wouldn't let him go alone. The second Haruto agreed, the dude lit up like a Shoujo anime character. But Haruto made him promise if he wanted to come, it had to be as part of his group. Back to the dungeon. Nanas has no idea what Haruto's thinking. Satoru tells her she needs to respect Senpai more. Right to her face, he says, I saw it with my own eyes. The one who cut Kuisha in half was Haruto. Nana starts thinking, maybe he's right. Ever since they last saw each other, Haruto does seem stronger. And those spider webs of his now explode like Kuisha's skills. Maybe the story checks out, but the question is how. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the dungeon, the odd couple, the K-pop idol Arita Sara and our lovely sword-thieving menace Kurosaki Takumi. They're posted up on a mountain ledge watching everyone else suffer down below. Their whole group is nearby, pretending to be in another raid party, waiting for the perfect moment to jump in and cause chaos. Problem is, there are two high-level hunters among the main group, so sneaking up isn't exactly an option. But as long as they don't get too close, they might be able to pull off their plan. Kurosaki reminds everyone, efficiency is the core of our guild. Then he turns to Arita, asking if she's gathered enough mana. Apparently, those mana-charging devices he gave her are ridiculously expensive. Just filling one requires killing over 100 monsters. That dungeon rupture back at the bridge? Yeah, he caused it by overloading tons of those. Arita's only concerned about one thing. How many more of these do we need to restore the sword? He answers, at least 20. She's like, so what? We're just gonna sit here and hide until then. He confirms, that's the plan. Especially since the next part of the dungeon is protected by a barrier that can only be cut with a Kalisha dragon sword. Arita's suspicious. And where exactly did you learn that? He tells her to stop asking questions. She's not getting details. Shisai says his plans are always weird. But after one icy glare from Kurosaki, she quickly apologizes, says she was just joking. As long as they've got a contract, she doesn't care what he does. Obviously, her real goal is the infinite man item, so she can finally restore her mother and father. Back in the heat of battle, our boy Haruto mentions they've already taken down over 200 golems, yet it didn't feel like progress. Another core drops from an ogre, and he picks it up. But this one feels different, and weirdly, it just slips from his hand and drops to the ground on its own. That's when Shirosaki steps in and says the process has begun. They've finished the first subjugation phase, now it's time for the second zone. Time to face the mini-boss of Snow Mountain, a shifting golem, level 150. A hulking monster suddenly charges in and slaps half the squad that they owe him money. Shirosaki calls for a full retreat. The creature breaks apart on impact, but come on, it's called the shifting golem. You know it's coming back. And sure enough, in seconds it reassembles itself and comes back swinging. Shirosaki gives it another hit, but every time the thing shatters, its core zips away, hides in another area, and reconstitutes a new body around itself. So Haruto gets an idea. Try to stop the core's movement with his spider web. He hits Troll plus V, landing the shot squarely, catching the golem mid-regeneration. Nope, the golem pulls itself back together with ease. The web was useless. Now they've got to find a way to destroy the golem before the pieces can come back together. Someone yells for Haruto to get out of the way, and when he turns, Nanis blasts the golem with a massive blue explosion to the chest. But again, the golem barely flinches. Physical attacks, magical attacks, doesn't care. Nanis says they'll have to combine their attacks, and Shirosaki's like, yeah, no kidding. Now Haruto starts to understand why everyone avoids this dungeon. Eris had warned him, this mini-boss is why it's so dangerous. And because it's an induction dungeon, there's no skipping it. Worse, the core is absorbing the corpses of fallen golems, making its health practically infinite. Shirosaki explains that they're not just fighting this boss, they're fighting everything they've already killed. The time and effort needed is why most hunters want nothing to do with this place. But of course, they got no choice. To get to the final boss, this guy's got to go down first. Nanis says they have two options. Destroy the core, erase everything they killed so far. Back in the fight, the boss is surrounded by blue flames. And judging by Nanis' sweat drop, things are not going well. The monster starts rebuilding itself behind her. Again, she barely turns in time to blast it with another Hellfire spell. Haruto wants to help, but if he uses the sword's powers, Arez, who knows all about it, will immediately realize something's up. He's careful like that. No one in this world can know about his Troll plus C and Troll plus V. Smart move. Then he remembers, he still has the item from the bear on the bridge. Its first skill, immobilize a target temporarily. Second skill, inflict damage over time. He slots a Troll plus C, Troll plus V on that bad boy. Better yet, he stacks it on top of his spider web. Now the web not only delivers a shockwave, it also holds enemies down with bear tier grip strength. And on top of that, the bear's second skill drains mana and HP. He charges in, finally ready to do some actual damage. Meanwhile, Nana stands alone in a field of fire. Gran is watching in awe, wondering if she's really trying to melt every chunk of that golem. And yet, once again, the thing starts reassembling behind her. She lets off another massive flame attack. Seriously, where is she getting this mana? But the golem just walks through it and winds up a massive punch. Looks like her mana's finally running out. But when a waifu's in danger, it's hero time. Haruto steps in, wraps the monster up like a cocoon, flexing hard. Even Nanis and Shirosaki are stunned. Dude just immobilized a mini-boss like it's nothing. Nana snaps out of it, yelling at him to stop posing an attack already. That's when Haruto reveals he's found a way to stop the core from escaping. Shirosaki decides not to argue. Just mutters, fine, but you'll pay for bossing me around later. He fires off another huge flame spell, and the golem begins to disintegrate. And right then, the core shows itself. Haruto hits Troll plus V, web time. But this time, combined with the bear's claws, the web doesn't just trap it. It morphs into a gnashing mouth full of teeth that bites down and locks the core in place. Shirosaki immediately recognizes it. It's the bear's junk skill. But somehow, Haruto turned it into something insanely effective. Nanis starts piecing things together. He had the Queen Spider's abilities. He was there with that other guy. He also fought at the bridge during the Koisha fight. She's starting to suspect. Is he the Troll plus D Troll plus V guy? But instead, she's just happy he always shows up when they need him. Ares even compliments him, and the whole squad's suddenly fired up. They finally got a chance to destroy the core. However, the one nearby who wasn't at all happy about it wasn't Kurosaki Takumi's sucker. Even Arita got confused, wondering how that kid managed to stop the Nucleus's movement. The problem was that they needed him to keep fighting in order to continue accumulating mana there. Then Shinoda announced that they have to step out of the plan. and everyone was supposed to get into position. Man, the masked group was sneaking up behind everyone, and nobody noticed a thing. Arita asked if he really needed to get involved personally. He replied that with that weird kid blocking the nucleus's movement, things had gotten a little more complicated. While Arita stood there surrounded by mana containers, Satoru was approaching and watching everything unfold. He noticed that the guy who seemed to be the leader had left, but what was he supposed to do? And then there was the question of why that girl was there and why she had so much mana accumulated. Ah, now we see why that bastard was invisible. Just before entering the dungeon, Haruto had handed him an item, saying it helped with camouflage. He was supposed to fight as little as possible, and when the opportunity arose, turn invisible and hunt down the enemy who was probably there too. Back in the dungeon, Satoru felt confident, especially since our protagonist had Shirosaki and Nanas by his side. In fact, I saw the image and thought that was what he was going to say, but the kid trusted Haruto so much that he only considered the three of them as equals. The two guild leaders couldn't care less that he was the one who was going to finish things off, since he already captured someone. He gave the greedy guy a free pass, and then just like that, handed him a sword of the nucleus that exploded. With that, the damn change golem was destroyed. The bastard immediately got swarmed by level-ups and of course received the most important thing, the sealed heart key, which granted access to the next hidden part of the dungeon. Granite tells Eris that now she's getting closer to seeing her mother. This guy's excited, even if he just got a little key. Calm down. She responds exactly that, saying the real challenge has only just begun. Meanwhile, our Haruto is more interested in checking out his status window. He gained 9 more levels, and naturally all his stats went up. If he activates the sword's power, he should be as strong as someone around level 285. Before long, he'd become a hunter capable of farming on his own. He's celebrating like an idiot while emptying his bag and wondering if he's lost his mind. To him, it was ridiculous for anyone to celebrate so much after taking down an average boss like that. But Nanas replied, of course, we're complaining about him celebrating, but he was starving to kill that beast. He tries to say it was only a matter of time before he finished them off, when suddenly something appears behind him. Not just behind him, pillars rise up all around everyone. Apparently, it was some kind of bomb that hunters plant to kill monsters. But now, dude, it was being used against them, and right then Shirosaki told everyone to crouch. The whole place exploded, man, that was like an atomic bomb. What the hell? Wow, those little hunters were already all crushed on the ground, poor them. Somebody could hit Ctrl plus Z there, right? That would be really convenient. Walking among the bodies, Kurosaki said that it had cost a fortune to set all that up. If he ignored the cruelty, it really was the most efficient solution. But then suddenly someone shouted that they found it. From the spider web coming in their direction, you all know who it is, man. Haruto went all in, charging headfirst into the melee. Right then, he recognized that damn Kalisha sword. But of course, as usual, he ended up taking a hit right in the chest, especially since he had that curls trick to work with. So why not push it? A full blow right in the stomach slammed him against the wall. Anans got back up and called out for Sano. Seeing that the guy wasn't far behind, he unleashed a hellish fire on him too. The entire area was wiped out, and now she's the one spitting blood. Oh my goodness, did she really use that much mana? Where's our K-pop idol when we need one to hit curls? I mean, she's the enemy, but with all that raw talent. We all know she'll be joining our side before long. Kurosaki was about to use a recovery ability to help her, but Eris quickly told him not to. Once again, the enemy was pulling that move, using that thing that prevents you from absorbing or using mana without suffering the consequences. Then, a shadowy space appeared, and Kurosaki moved away from Haruto. At that moment, Shirosaki recognized it as a forbidden ability, a camouflage power so dangerous that the association doesn't allow hunters to use it. The little thug glanced at the ground and saw our guy's sword lying there. The moment he touched it, possession of the item shifted to him. Come to think of it, that's exactly how things work. If you pick something up, it's yours. The whole setup was so focused on making everything feel like a video game that had traveled the world only to end up in the same spot. The guy celebrated his win, but then grabbed our protagonist, insisting he couldn't let that variable live. Even while being strangled, Haruto agreed, saying he was thinking the exact same thing. He activated his spider web ability once more, saying he loves it when the villain is as bad as this. Along with the web, he triggered his bear's grip move, leaving the guy dazed and crushed. A sort of cocoon filled with teeth formed around him, and all his invisible allies were wondering how they were going to break it. But Haruto kept advancing, warning him that he regrets stealing that sword. Haruto then dissolved the web to launch his final attack, but the guy had vanished. Kurosaki suddenly appeared from behind, saying he'd been startled for a second. Without that shadow nearby, he'd have been done for by such a useless ability. That's when he finally understood the desperation high-level hunters must have felt when they couldn't figure out what was happening. Haruto then told the guy to calm down and asked if he didn't even know his own nickname. The Man and Deliverer, right? It was the first time he tried sending mana that far, but apparently worked. At that moment, the fool felt the pressure. Kurosaki admitted he had no idea what had happened, but suddenly he was brimming with mana and ready to take revenge on that bastard. A pentagram of energy appeared in the sky, and Kurosaki knew that if he took that attack, he wouldn't survive, not by a long shot. He immediately ordered that its usability be disabled. And then here comes the bastard hitting curls as all the stored mana began to spread. With that, the Mountain Golem dungeon would be reinstalled and reset. Wow, man, how does that even work? Is time going to rewind? I doubt it. It's nothing like that. It just starts reassembling the golem's stones, and of course, the creatures will all reappear from scratch. At that very moment, the first golem charged in to punch Kurosaki. The problem was, he was still under the effect of that gas that prevented him from absorbing mana. All the mana he had was the one our guy had delivered, and the kicker was that he had to keep those barriers up until everyone woke up. Then, as he glanced back, he saw Nanas once again pummeling the boss. A bit confused, he learned from her that apparently he didn't even know Haruto's nickname, the Mana Deliverer, that sly one. Arez, standing right beside him, remarked that the kid's ability seemed to be the power to distribute infinite mana to his allies. But Shirosaki found that very odd. This kind of mana distribution should be the sole province of a priest. Besides, a hunter at Nanas' level would need absurd amounts of mana. Not just anyone could supply her. Moreover, it wasn't just her. Everyone was fighting, which made no sense at all unless he was truly capable of generating infinite mana. He hadn't even known such a unique ability existed. If it were true, having Haruto in the guild would be far better than constantly hunting that infinite mana golem, right? It makes sense to an extent, but it's still baffling, since no one seems desperate for mana. Unless they're running low, then they really need it. Then Nanas explained it all. Everything that happened on that bridge was the work of that damned Blood Tower guild. Grant agreed, but pointed out that now the dungeon had been reset, and this could happen again. However, Erez insisted that it isn't that easy to reset the dungeon. Otherwise, they wouldn't have waited until such a crucial moment. At least with this reset, she was sure the chance of the secret dungeon appearing had increased dramatically. Nanas, on the other hand, thinks something's off. There were way fewer golems this time. Shirosaki immediately notices that the ones she melted with the blue flames aren't coming back to life, and now both of them are worried about our dear Haruto, fearing he might have been killed. Finally, folks are starting to care about our kid. He's out there all messed up, hating himself for letting that guy get away. As soon as the dungeon reset, Haruto charged in, but the guy defended himself easily, warning that a low-level hunter like him wouldn't stand a chance. Still, Haruto just grabbed his hand and activated a web that locked it in place. Enraged, the guy struggled to break free, shouting that the bastard was like a disgusting insect. Then an explosion went off beneath them. Kurosaki had unleashed his sword's power. A second later, Haruto found himself sprawled on a pile of snow, and when he looked around, there was no one in sight. Meanwhile, back at the Hunters Association, two guys on the right were saying not to worry because Master Shirosaki was with a group. The one with the goatee replied that the biggest problem now was how they were going to handle that so-called Blood Tower, since they didn't have much information. The guy in the black suit slammed a tablet onto the table and said that the Midas Guild had uncovered some things. Takeuchi then explained that these guys were so confident thanks to the involvement of an international guild called Starfield. Both men were taken aback. The goatee guy even asked why a giant guild like that would try to pull stunts in a tiny place like Japan. The bald guy added that it was precisely that which frightened him. Whatever was going on in this dungeon was huge. 15 years ago, when the accident happened, this very dungeon exploded and a bunch of golems started roaming the city. Back then, one of the most powerful priests in the world, Nishihara Tomoka, managed to seal him back up. Damn, I even jotted down her name, only to find out in the next panel that she'd already died. What shame. Takeuchi then commented that the item sealed in the dungeon was really strange since it's attracting people from other countries. He also mentioned that Nishihara's daughter is involved in all this. And yes, we all know her, our dear Erez. At least she believes her mother is still alive. The guy with the sideburns asked whether she was after the sword or if she was just interested in finding out about her mother's death. That's when the bald guy explained that Nishihara's death was never confirmed, leaving everyone confused. All these people had been declared dead. So what's with the uncertainty? He went on to say that a hunter left this dungeon just 5 years ago and witnessed Nishihara there, coming from her own territory. The problem is, Starfield hasn't revealed much more than that. All he knows is that there's a lot happening in there. Just as he was about to speak up, someone opened the door announcing they were in trouble. The president ordered him to quickly explain what was so important to halt the meeting. He pressed a control and reported that a dungeon collapse was underway. Behind a car, someone messaged that they needed help. A bunch of golems had suddenly appeared in the city and were roaming everywhere. Everyone in the meeting jumped in alarm. Takeuchi knew those were the very creatures that were supposed to be hunted in the snow. Back inside the dungeon, Kurosaki was still totally beaten up. Arita asked if things were going to work out. It was the first time she'd seen him so badly injured. He told her to take a look for herself. They had finally found the hidden heart of the mountain. Just past the bridge, there it was, the secret entrance. Arita got excited. At last, she was going to get the heart of a giant golem. Their team advanced across the bridge, but Satoru was nearby, invisible, watching everything unfold. He never imagined these guys would actually find something like this. One of the masked men reached out and felt a strange barrier, alerting the boss that something was blocking the way. Kurosaki stretched out his hand, thinking that those damn Starfield guys really had all the intel. This was definitely the spot that had been sealed 15 years ago by the great Nishihara Tomoka. He then warned everyone to get ready to break through the barrier, but cautioned them not to get distracted. That prompted Arita to use all her mana capsules to revert the state of the sword. Then suddenly he looked back and said that a rat was nearby. He pointed the sword toward the bridge and remarked that it was daring as his guild quickly tried to use stealth. Satoru suddenly realized they were screwed, and then Kurosaki delivered a slash to him. The scene shifted to another area nearby. A rabbit was hopping along when, out of nowhere, a little golem appeared and poked it. The golem grabbed the creature's crystal and started consuming it. Whoa! Suddenly our kid had scored himself a little golem pet. Where did you even get that, man? He might as well have said. And it looked like he was feeding the creature human crystals so it could multiply infinitely. Then when he touched that golem's core, he obviously copied and acquired its abilities. He could create a level 1 golem and even a level 1 golem armor. On top of that, you could share vision and hearing with the golem to see what it was up to. The only problem was that he couldn't absorb those abilities via a simple copy and paste, but the item itself was enough. Even better, he could copy the core itself, which would let him solo an entire dungeon without any help. At level 1 it was already that big, just imagine what it would be at level 10. But then, out of nowhere, the golem shifted sideways. When Haruto looked, it was Satoru, running over in a panic. He immediately threw his arms around him and wrapped his legs around him, saying he was terrified of dying. There wasn't even an epic reunion. They were both already sprinting back as Seiguru explained that he had found the secret dungeon. It seems that when Kurosaki launched his attack, one of the guys from the Futuro Guild was involved. In other words, Kurosaki, the tattoo guy, had the same idea as him, to leave someone watching invisibly. Satoru then mentioned that there was a girl with them. For some strange reason, she was loaded with mana machines and had begun initiating some process. He thought about stopping her just as Haruto had ordered, but he got so scared that he ran off. Our boy said it was all okay. The information alone was enough. Then Satoru said he saw something very familiar. But before he could explain what, he asked why there was a little golem following the two of them. Haruto replied not to worry about it, saying it was just his minion. The fool just stood there thinking it was really cute. In the next scene, they were already on the bridge outside the dungeon, searching for Kurosaki. The protagonist told Satoru to go fetch the other two while he waited there. He was feeling insecure, but the protagonist reassured him by saying he had a little golem to keep watch over everything around. Satoru had little choice, and our guy even handed over the golem's core. That way he could have his very own minion, which though it looked weak, actually packed a solid attack. The kid was totally thrilled to have received such an expensive item. It wasn't like he handed over the original and kept all the copies he'd made. Haruto was starting to like this little rascal. Even though he was already a rich billionaire-trillionaire guy, he was actually pretty down to earth. With that, Haruto activated the golem's core once more. When the ability kicked in, and I didn't comment on it before, it said that the golem would take on any form he imagined. That's why this time he made it look like a little bird, and with shared senses he could easily keep an eye on everything they were doing. Soon enough, he saw the girl holding the sword and realized she was the one Satoru had mentioned. The problem was what was happening with that sword, and why was there so much mana floating around? Arita activated her Troll's ability, and a huge burst of energy began pouring into the sword. And man, its durability went from 6% to 100%. Seriously, that Troll Z is insanely overpowered. I thought it was just a slight recovery, but it totally reset the sword from scratch. She was left completely exhausted, and Kurosaki thanked her for restoring its durability to full. You better watch out, girl, now that you've lost its utility. It's gonna cut your head off. Hearing all this, Haruto realized that an ability to restore a sword like that shouldn't exist. Maybe she was like him, a person who instead of having an ability has either a gift or a curse. And that sneaky bastard was already scheming about copying her talent, though it probably wouldn't be easy to kill her husband. That's when he wondered, could he really copy someone else's ability? He first thought about trying on someone, but more importantly, he wanted to turn that girl into an ally. Kurosaki then celebrated, saying that the time had finally come to break down the barrier in this place. Without much trouble, he inserted the Kalisha sword and a bunch of chains started snapping. A huge circle appeared and a strong gust of wind blew while our guy watched everything from afar. He knew that this was the barrier that prevented anyone from entering. Kurosaki went on to celebrate that without the key and Starfield's intel, there'd be no way for him to get here. Only the sword could break the barrier created by Nishihara. Arita asked him to explain why. He explained that the true owner of that sword, back in the day, was Nishihara's husband, known as Frederick Hugh. He disappeared in this dungeon 15 years ago, and that's when she sealed off the whole place, leaving only the sword with the power to destroy so he could return. So many details that our guy had no idea about. He even recognized the name Frederick. The guy was considered a sword god back then, and apparently Arez's family was far more important than he had ever imagined. Then the little thug said he was tired of talking and it was time to break. With the blade firmly planted, he activated a level-up boost. The entire area was bathed in golden light, blinding everyone and even destroying nearby golems. Now it made sense why they had to restore the durability. There's no way those 6% would have been enough. Finally, the barrier began to crumble. Kurosaki cheered, saying he never imagined it was nothing more than a hologram. Now it was time to enter this place and find the golem's heart after all these years. The problem was, thanks to Haruto, he didn't know whether to wait for the others to arrive or go after them all by himself. Meanwhile, down in southern Italy in a rank as dungeon, man, the sight of a hunter being sliced to pieces on the ground, it was unbelievable. As he lay there agonizing, the guy muttered that killing just him would have been enough, so why kill everyone? The guy in white gloves replied that if only he died, he'd be labeled a murderer. But if everyone died, it'd just be called a dungeon accident. Damn, with a snap of his fingers, he evaporated that guy. What the another control ability? This kid's got a trolle. When someone dies, his abilities transfer to the nearest person who can use them. Yeah, considering that trolle is like select all, it makes sense, right? He slashes at someone's neck, and you can see he has a similar little stunner as Haruto. What the now he used trolle to select everyone, then Troll X to cut out the chosen targets. It looked like he created some kind of spatial crater and everyone just vanished. Then he feels someone approaching, and when he turns around, it's an elf or maybe an elf woman. I'm not sure. I know the person's complimenting his trolle, saying it's evolving more and more. He replies that he hates that this ability forces him to kill people to steal their cursed skills. Oh, so he's stealing everyone's trolls, huh? Yikes. Our protagonist better watch out. If word gets out that there's a king of Troll C and Troll V around, he's going to start hunting him. The elf is wearing a skirt, but I'm not sure I can trust her yet, guys. These authors have been tricking me a lot lately. I'm getting pretty jaded. The elf says that the only ability you can copy without killing is the famous Troll C. The boss replies that they've been looking for that bastard for a long time, but they have no clue where he is. Maybe Troll Seed doesn't even exist. I'm telling you, I'm thinking he might be a man. Folks. Ah, you slay author, you really thought you fooled me, huh? I'm tough, man. Then he explains that a person with Troll Seed did exist in his dimension, so he must exist in this one too. Then one guy asks, where's Troll F? And another wonders, what happened to Troll Z? Man, there are just so many trolls. At that moment, they mentioned that the barrier Nishihara had set up was just broken. Troll Z was important, but even more crucial was obtaining the golem's heart, a must-have for using those cursed abilities at their maximum potential. Back in the dungeon, we see Shirosaki arriving. It seems they ran over there, but didn't find anyone. Looks like our dear Haruto came back and called everyone, right? Smart kid. Let's be honest, if he were alone again against that guy, he'd be in even deeper trouble. There was only one path, so he knew the best move was to dash forward. Manus has no idea who's behind all of this, and Eris says that as far as she knows, it might even be Starfield's doing. Manus gets scared, asking why Starfield would involve itself in something like this. The #1 international guild shouldn't be messing with a Blood Tower guild. Eris mentions that she thinks her mother is the reason for all this. As Haruto listens to all these details, he starts to realize that ever since the bridge was destroyed, everything has been leading up to this moment. He looks at Eris and begins to wonder if their real target wasn't the key at all, but her. Could it be? How did you come to that conclusion, Einstein? I still can't see that possibility. At least Shirosaki knows what's more important and tells everyone to start running again because they have to catch up with those guys. Rather than just speculating, they should capture that bastard and force him to spill everything. Meanwhile, Satoru is sprinting along with his little golem, and Shirosaki asks what that's about. When Satoru says it's a minion he got from our dear Haruto, the guy looks a bit confused. Nanus then asks the protagonist why he handed something so valuable over to her. He replies, it's good to leave valuable things with someone who's got money, right? If the kid loses it, he'll get it back. She gives a little smile, just like she always does whenever our guy says something, and suddenly, Satoru steps on something. Out of nowhere, a magical circle appears under him and Shirasaki. Aruna rushes in their direction. Meanwhile, Nana steps into the shade, calling out doing the same thing. And boom, another circle obviously activates beneath those two clowns as well. They fall to the ground, and as they get up, they're calling out for Shirasaki and Satoru once again. Strangely, they couldn't see anything around them. They seemed to be in a forest. Looking to the side, Haruto sees a giant dragon in front of him. The beast was about to bite, and he had no idea where it had come from. At least Nanas reacted quickly, launching an attack that sliced the monster's head off. The head fell to the ground, and the protagonist wondered why there was a dinosaur-like monster in this mountain dungeon. At that moment, is warned that the place seemed to be a completely different world. It was probably a multidimensional dungeon. Wow, guys, they really ended up in a gigantic forest. Nanas says that's impossible. As far as she knows, all multidimensional dungeons vanished 15 years ago. Eris agrees, since it was her mother who sealed all those dungeons 15 years ago. But those magical circles that appeared under them must have been used to connect them to this other dimension. That's exactly how the creatures invade their world too. Nanas then understood why that dungeon had been sealed. However, Haruto already knew that Satoru and Shirasaki must have been sent to another dimension as well. Probably their next move is to clear out this dungeon so they can return to the golems. He then draws his sword and says that if they don't have another option, they'd better act fast. The problem was, a dozen dinosaurs were already coming their way. Now I noticed that poor Grant's fool was taken as well, only now that he show up. Meanwhile, the whole city was ablaze. The golems that were supposed to be in the dungeon were wreaking havoc across all of Japan. There were those hunters who were just tired of always trying to do something. Of course, that boss who rebuilds itself is right there, and they can't kill it. They call for an area attack, but the fisherman mage warns that he's out of mana and they'll have to hold on a little longer. The poor hunters are really struggling to keep those low-level golems in check until one of them runs up to give the bald guy a smack. Just then, a flash of light appears, and in struts a blonde kid all swagged out with a backpack. The fisherman mage is grateful and soon realizes that the kid is a foreigner. He says he's on a business trip but couldn't just stand by while people suffered. The others thank him and are impressed that he speaks Japanese too. Meanwhile, amidst the chaos with the golem, the bald guy remarks that he misses the protagonist and his ability to provide mana. The blonde kid overhears this and asks, what's this about someone who can generate infinite mana? Because the bald guy replies that it's nothing special, just some useless person whose only job is to do that sort of thing. Now the blonde is really curious and wants to know where to find him. The other guy says he has no idea. Sometimes when he goes into a dungeon, he runs into that useless guy. But of course now the blonde is determined to find out who this infinite mana guy really is. At first everyone said he was useless, but now people seem very interested. Then someone behind the blonde exclaims that he's finally arrived. Wow, it's Taikuchi, our beloved mysterious deep web doctor. Looking up at the golems attacking from above, they're absolutely sure these are the same ones that were supposed to be in the snowy mountain. Shinoda comments that these guys were the perfect targets for Taikuchi, who rushes ahead to inform the president that he'll handle it. Armor activated. Hey, you're clearly inspired by that Fantastic Four thing, right? Now it's Golem versus Golem, and the big blue one charges at him. One attack later, the beast shatters into about 300,000 pieces. The burst of glittery magic fills the screen. At one point, I even thought a magical waifu had appeared. But nope, it's just the guy with the goatee conjuring his colorful powers. The giant golem then runs toward Taikuchi to deliver a punch. But obviously, he wasn't about to lose in a strength contest. Taikuchi counters with a punch on top of the punch, and suddenly the monster's entire arm disintegrates, exposing its core. He grabs it and shatters it. This was a real warm-up. The guy was finished in no time, while our boys end up suffering through what feels like 30 chapters. So the boss was defeated and the dungeon cleared. Crazy enough, this city invasion wasn't that difficult after all. Having someone used a Trollif on Taikuchi. That's one of those abilities to locate other people who apparently have troll powers, and guess who did it? Our slay blonde kid, who's just scribbling notes and saying he got some good intel. Now he wants to know if Troll Z is still active inside the dungeon. At least it's good that she didn't die in there. Damn, right at this moment, she's got a hole right through her stomach. At least she's Troll Z'd so she can just reset her belly, I guess. But I'm not sure if she's got enough mana for that. Let's go back about 20 minutes when a bunch of zombies appeared. Kurosaki's group was also transported to another dimension and got caught up with all that zombie madness. While preparing his sword, he remarks that the problem is they have no idea what happens after this point, but dealing with those creatures would be ridiculously easy. One cut and the whole area would disintegrate. And then, bam, the dungeon was over, and they'd be whisked away by the giant golem's heart. The entire team appears in front of a huge door, and one of the masked ones cheers that they finally found the hidden boss. Without hesitating, Kurosaki takes the key and slams it into the door. The chamber opens, and they all step inside. Whoa, guys, they're surrounded by a bunch of statues holding weapons. Somehow, this place looks familiar. Everyone's standing there, calmly scraping their swords along the statues as if searching for the boss. Meanwhile, Arita starts feeling an enormous pressure on her body. Strangely, no one else seems to be reacting. One of the masked guys is about to say it's just for the reward, but you can see something coming from behind. That poor guy gets crushed like an ant, and it's clear one of the statues has started moving. The first guy is startled, and suddenly everyone snaps back to reality. Not only was that statue the boss, but every single statue in the room was a threat. Arita is acting really strange, crying even though she's seen countless people die before. That confuses Kurosaki. He knows she's seen it all, so why is she reacting like this now? He orders her to snap out of it and use her ability before these guys are finished for good. Then he rushes over to one of the bodies and yanks one of the mana sources. The problem is, there's no mana coming from the sources. In fact, it looks like the mana is being pulled in another direction. Next to her, she sees other statues decimating the masked ones. Kurosaki orders everyone to focus up and start attacking instead of just taking hits. He lands a blow on the massive creature's ribs, making it stagger, and then orders the rest of the team to start using their high-level minds. One of the masked fighters suddenly reveals that none of their minds or invisibility abilities are working at all. Then look what happens. Another fool gets crushed. Actually, he was both smashed and sliced at the same time. When Kurosaki glances to the side, the only one still alive was grabbed by the hand and also crushed. Right in front of him, a pile of bodies was starting to form. He's getting angry, not because people are dying, but because the group's efficiency is plummeting. Now it's his turn, facing 3 huge brutes in front of him. He orders his Kalisha sword to level up, but the system warns that he doesn't have enough mana to use its power. He's confused, since he's level 300 and should have more than enough mana. But it's too late. Apparently, he's just become another casualty. Meanwhile, Arita, acting on impulse, bolts off the mana source. Apparently, that's why no one has any mana in this place. Everything's being siphoned off. When she puts her hand on it, she immediately sees the giant golem's heart appear. The problem is, that thing is supposed to provide mana, not absorb it. Suddenly, the heart starts cracking, and she tries to escape, but it fires a laser right into her ribs. She tumbles down the stairs like a crumpled piece of trash and lands face to face with a statue. And damn, these statues don't hesitate. They immediately start slashing with their swords. Out of her shadow, something begins to emerge. It's Kurosaki. He appears and shields her, as if the villain himself has turned into a savior. He even grabs an advanced potion, tosses it her way, picks her up, and runs off like some Marvel hero. The catch is, the moment she touched the golem's heart, the fight against the final boss was activated, and the door they came through started closing. He tried using the Shadow Step, but he didn't have enough mana. With no other option, he did the most human thing possible and ran. But as he saw the door, he knew there wouldn't be enough time for both of them to get through. Damn, this villain is out here saving more than our protagonist. He grabbed Arita and hurled her out. The poor girl got up, demanding to know why he did that. He replied that as long as she's alive, she can use her Curl Z and reset everything. But she just stood there crying, asking if he was an idiot. She isn't a hunter and doesn't have enough mana to pull that off. There's no way she could restore everything. So it can't be said he was a hero because he was only trying to save himself. He knew she'd eventually rewind time. Still, I'm used to those villains who just try to dash through the door and leave both of them trapped. These guys are pretty dumb. At least this one is a bit smarter. In Arita's mind, she cursed herself for ever agreeing to come to this place when suddenly something warm starts seeping into her. It was our protagonist, Haruto, channeling a massive amount of mana into her. When she opened her eyes, she recognized him immediately. She knew he'd done the same thing for Nanas before. Haruto then approached and said that if she has enough mana, she should be able to restore her own body. That left her confused. How did this guy know about her ability? Meanwhile, the rest of the group was stuck at the door, fuming that they'd come all this way and still couldn't get in. Erez explained that as long as there's even one person alive inside, nothing can be done from the outside. Shirosaki, unsurprisingly, wasn't happy at all, complaining that they just wasted their time. He then glanced over, asking who that girl was. Someone explained that she was one of the healers from the Blood Tower team, and thanks to Sano's mana, she managed to recover. Shirosaki didn't care much for that. He just wanted to know if they were going to remain trapped and if they wouldn't finish the dungeon. Eris confirmed that was a very real possibility. Then he slammed his hand against his head, realizing why so many people had disappeared trying to complete this place. Nearby, Haruto was wondering if he should mention the key. He'd already made a copy. That sneaky guy. You really thought he'd just leave the key untouched and not copy it, like Troll C, Troll V on everything. He was all bent over, saying he could just pretend he found it lying on the ground. Could that be such a huge coincidence? With her hand on the door, Erez knew that this was something her mother had sealed, and she was certain there was something important inside. Suddenly, her hand seems to pass right through, and the entire door starts to glow. The place opens up, leaving everyone dumbfounded as to how that happened. Erez explained that the cloak she was wearing was made by her mother, and it might resonate with the door. Haruto had already suspected that she was key to all this. Suddenly, a dark aura envelops everyone, and Misato wonders what kind of pressure that is. Nanis warns everyone to take cover. There's something in that place draining everyone's mana. Haruto asks Arita if that's what she mentioned before, and she confirms. Instead of providing mana, the giant golem's heart was absorbing it. Now our protagonist is left wondering how to fix this mess. Desperate, Arita says they better run. There's nothing a hunter can do against the kind of creatures that are about to appear. At that very moment, golems pop up right in front of Satoru. Nanis, now used to being near Haruto, asks him for the one thing he does best. He assures them not to worry, promising he'll fill everyone's mana in this place. Troll C, Troll V, Troll C, Troll V, Troll C, Troll V, over and over again. Man, look at all the little windows he spammed, opens his arms and spreads mana everywhere. Arita was instantly confused, not understanding why this was happening. Even though mana was being absorbed, so much was being produced that it was overflowing the area. She figured that if Haruto could just fill her up a bit, maybe her parents would return to her brother. Then Nanis charged in. This amount of mana was more than enough to wipe out those golems. Really, one swift cut, and they were shattered. That delinquent hiked-up kid whipped out his wand and unleashed some thunder. But then even more rocky projectiles came flying in. For the guy with infinite mana, though, it was a breeze. He created a giant chain of lightning that obliterated the entire dungeon. Arita glanced over and saw Kurosaki's sorry excuse for a body lying there with his sword by his side, completely done in. He had no arm, was gasping for breath, and she wasn't sure what to do. Just when she considered maybe saving him, Haruto approached. He gave the guy a cold look, grabbed his most important sword. Yeah, he went ahead and cloned it, and finally got exactly what he'd been after. Now he was convinced that Arita had an ability similar to his, one he definitely wanted to copy. But first, it was time to test another theory. Haruto leaned in close to Kurosaki's face and tried to use his Troll C ability to copy the shadow movement. The system, however, rejected it, saying the target's level was higher than his. Moreover, the target was strongly hostile toward him. In this case, he had two options to acquire the ability. Either kill the target and steal the skill, or forcibly steal the ability when the target's HP drops below 15%, though that would leave the target unable to use their own ability. Either he steals it or he kills the target. It's no less brutal than what that guy did before. Our boy was sure that this guy couldn't possibly be at 15% HP after being so beaten up. This forced absorption might seem harsh, but it'll definitely come in handy in the future. Just then, Shirosaki appeared and ordered Arita to fix this guy, just enough to extract the information they needed so he couldn't escape. She was there keeping an eye on Haruto. She moved over to Shirosaki, used her Curl Z, and he started getting restored. Haruto, ever the glutton, thought this was even better than the clone he makes of himself to resurrect, though I'm not so sure about that, since our protagonist can take a sword blow, die, and come back, or else, if someone dies, that's it. As soon as Kurosaki came to, he grinned, saying he knew the two of them would survive. But then the cold, calculating K-pop girl turned and walked off. The fool was already captured, and Nanis warned him that if he tried to run, he'd be sliced in half. He shot back that she could only say that once they got out alive, since the dungeon was about to start up again. In the center of the room, the golem's heart began to glow, and just like that, it shifted to the side. A laser shot toward Nanis, sweeping across the entire room. Damn, Satoru cried as he sprinted in panic. But more lasers were coming, one aimed right at that sucker. The protagonist shouted for him, but it was too late. But wait, folks, the little golem minion is now arriving at containment. And as always, we flash forward 30 minutes to see what happened in that dungeon where Shirosaki, our dear Satoru, was. Like our very own tattooed Harry Potter, he was hurling lightning bolts with his wand, disintegrating every creature in sight. It was like it was raining human rubble, just perfect for his little golem to feast on. Shirosaki even told him to do it, since to him it was worthless otherwise. So the little golem started eating and leveled up to 2. Satoru was all smiles until the creature activated a skill that started to wrap itself around his body. Now back in the present, there's the bastard sporting a massive armored golem. The rare sight left everyone stunned that this guy managed to evolve his minion so quickly. Meanwhile, Shirosaki was convinced that this was the same ability that Takeuchi used. Suddenly, attacks came hurtling in, and one even seemed to pierce his stomach. Yeah, he nearly got hit on the head. Erez told him to focus, because these attacks were made of highly concentrated mana. Not even a magical shield could properly block them. Nanis, ever daring, stepped forward and said that's why it's easier to block them physically. "Watch me headbutt," then she declared, and sure enough, she launched herself and redirected the attack to the other side. Haruno realized what she said made sense. The mana was so dense that it could alter trajectories. The problem was they couldn't just stand there. They had to move forward instead of merely defending. After all, since he was giving infinite mana to everyone, that crystal was also draining infinite mana from him. He had to somehow get close to it or everyone would die. Watch as our clever one activates his shadow ability, along with his spider ability, using Troll C and Troll V nonstop. He slips into the ground inside that spider effect, so no one can see him activate it, leaving Grant all confused about where the kid went. Then, Haruto appears behind the cube, or rather in the shadow created by the attack's effect, and immediately strikes at its hand, triggering the resonance of the Kueisha. Man, that wasn't such a good idea after all. He got ricocheted back and ended up spitting out like 3 liters of blood. And now the kid's all acting like a total protagonist, coming back all cocky like there's no way he'd lose to that bastard using his own mana. He drops another Troll V, this time activating it along with his spider web. Suddenly, the whole heart gets surrounded. Finally, all the non-stop attacks pause for a few seconds. Everyone starts cheering and Haruto smiles. But don't get too excited. This guy isn't done yet. As soon as he sees it wasn't enough, he slams another spider web. And this time, as soon as the target's caught, he activates the Kueisha resonance inside the web. Finally, something begins to crack. The cube shatters and he levels up. The entire heart fractures and a bright light starts radiating out of nowhere. The system announces you destroyed the golem's heart, the dungeon is finished. Then comes another deluge of little level-up windows flashing on the screen. And the best part, man, is that he gets a reward, the heart of a giant golem. It had the ability to generate infinite mana and could absorb nearby mana up to a certain limit. But of all the people in the world, Haruto's the only one who thinks the thing isn't all that useful. Still, it doesn't hurt to make a copy, so he decides to stash one in his inventory. With that, his Troll C leveled up too. It now automatically copies any object that can be copied. What? So long as something's close by, it's just Troll V and done? I guess that's how it works. Out of nowhere, Satoru starts running up, bragging about how amazing he is and wanting to give a hug. But then someone else calls out it's Shirosaki, saying that by some miracle, the kid actually managed to get the heart. Sana was left wondering if he's being trashed for praise. That Nanis tells the guy to stop acting like a kid. Shirosaki adds that when they get back, he wants a little chat with our boy. Haruto just warns, if you want to buy it, the price won't be cheap. Nanis, on the other hand, tells him to save that discussion for when they're back at the association. Soon after, they regroup with Arita and the captured loser. Sana goes over to Eris and hands her the sword, saying that finally her mother's treasure has returned. She takes it gratefully and says everything's okay. He returned just as he promised. Grant doesn't let anything slide and asks if Haruto had used the shadow ability from the Blood Tower's master. Shirosaki chimes in that he really saw the kid cover the distance super fast. Haruto tries to come up with an excuse, saying he was pumped or all hyped. Apparently, after his Atiya ability evolved, he could stick to stuff from afar and pulled himself in really quickly. But of course, no one's buying that lame excuse. Nanis then shows up to save our guy, telling everyone it's rude to keep asking about each other's abilities, and orders everyone to get moving because they need to investigate these two scoundrels. Meanwhile, Kurosaki turns to Arita and tells her she's going to have to pay for that time he saved her. It was high time she reset the dungeon. She asks him if he's crazy, but he quickly reminds her that she doesn't have many options. She's got a contract with him. As long as she wears the Adama Deal bracelet, she'll never be able to betray her partner. In other words, as long as it's on her arm, she's stuck with him. Poor Rita, she's bawling, and though she's got a Troll Z, her life's a mess, and now she's in the hands of that bastard who orders her to reset the dungeon because he risked his life to save her, and especially considering that there's more than enough mana in the air. Suddenly, all that mana starts converting to Arita. Sanov immediately senses something strange is about to go down. She crouches and slaps the ground. Before the dungeon resets, Haruto tries to warn everyone to get out because everything's about to restart. Eris says doing that would be insane. They could end up getting hurled into another dimension again. So Haruto dives into the shadows and makes a beeline for her, activates his spider web ability, and asks why she's doing this. But Arita doesn't say a word. She just gets a tear in her eye, slaps the ground, and goodbye. Or not, because Haruto manages to reach her in time and gives her a little tug on the belly. Then everything explodes everywhere. The blocks fly, everyone's activating barriers. Suddenly, they find themselves in a blue, disoriented state. What's going on, guys? Are we in Minecraft now, and it's time to farm? Next thing you know, they're in another world. A giant portal appears, and they end up in some city that leaves me confused. Apparently, Everyone got booted from the dungeon and Seitoru is shouting our boy's name. They realize they're up in the sky above Tokyo. What the heck is happening? Erin says she obviously has no clue either. Suddenly, someone calls for Nanis, and when she looks over, it's her dad, wanting to know what she's doing. Shiroseki is also baffled, asking what Shinobuta is up to. I'm the one asking, I'm trying to figure out what happened in that dungeon. Besides, why was it just these people? Where's everyone else? Shiroseki grits his teeth, while Nanis can only think about our boy. Just 5 seconds apart and she's already missing our Chad. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, Kurosaki is fuming that this damn place didn't reset. Arita explains that Haruto pulled her in the middle of the incantation, which ended up canceling it. The guy then shrugs, saying it's all good since the others seem to have left. Plus, the handcuffs disappeared along with them, so as long as they get the heart, everything's perfect. Of course, Haruto isn't about to let that happen easily. He activates his spider webs, but then he wonders, weren't his Control C and Control V supposed to locate the item? Oh my god, he mutters. Arita remarks that it seems she not only reset the dungeon, but also reset him. No way, he thinks. This is impossible. I'm still here with all my memories in my body. Nara must have changed. Yet damn, he's now at level 1. And that's a serious rip-off of her ability. She reverted him to exactly the state he was in on the very first day he awakened. Worst of all, even his Control C and Control V abilities have reset to level 1. A system message pops up saying an unconfirmed object was copied and paste is now possible. But here's the kicker. While he's at level 1, Kurosaki comes over and slams a sword into his chest. Still celebrating, Kurosaki mocks him, saying his idiot face shows his level must have been reset. It was the perfect opportunity for him to die and vanish. Seeing the sword coming, Haruto gets a devious, desperate, totally protagonist idea. He always makes a copy for when he dies, right? Except, when he made that copy, theoretically he was still before the reset. I think that's his plan, at least in his own head. But the problem is, when he's about to be killed, Grant steps in and protects him. Kurosaki then bellows that it's better for Haruto to get out of there. Otherwise, an International Association hunter is going to die. Haruto demands to know why the guy is doing that, and the reply is just for him to run, warning that Kurosaki will handle it, so he better flee immediately. Haruto, however, insists there's no way he can do that. Fuming over their argument, Kurosaki declares they're all a bunch of bastards. The level gap between them is enormous, yet they're acting as if one of them could actually escape. Meanwhile, Grand is desperately trying to hold on, getting cut from all sides. The poor guy has no chance. His sword breaks, he's thrown to the ground like a piece of crap. As usual, the protagonist's friends are a joke. Then Kurosaki moves in for the final blow, saying that taking out one of the International Association members is just perfect. Poor Grant knew there was no way to dodge it. But then Haruto interposes like a human shield and takes a whipping on his back. Grant demands to know why our boy is getting up, warning that this damn Kurosaki is his target. He doesn't want any help, so Grant should get out of the way. Haruto's acting like he's Thorfinn hunting Askeladd. And before anyone can do anything else, Kurosaki splits the kid in two. Grant is left speechless, watching the boy fall apart like an open Kinder egg. The moment that happens, Kurosaki seizes the golem's heart. He then turns to Arita and declares that from now on, she's the only person she can depend on. He warns her not to make any funny faces. After all, that kid died because she reset him to his original state. Though, maybe he's grateful he died. It must be terrible living with everything reset. Then the sword slices through his arm and someone quips that, yeah, he should be thankful for having been killed. Now his arm looks like a champagne bottle popping, and he collapses in agony. Yet our boy somehow reappears, exuding a powerful aura. Everyone's in shock. This kid just got shattered like an open Kinder egg, so why is he still walking on 2 feet? Looking back, Kurosaki sees that his body has vanished. He picks up the sword, trying to figure out what kind of damn ability makes him immortal. But now Haruto has coated the sword with his web with a thunderbolt, pinning Kurosaki in place. While immobilized, Kurosaki declares it's useless because he has a shadow step to get out. However, when he tries to use it, the system warns that his ability has been transferred and can no longer be used. He yells, ordering Arita to use it again, but she's growing bold and says she doesn't want to do it. Shockwaves ripple through the web as he shouts, asking if she's forgotten she's under contract. If she'd have forgotten, she'd remember now. The thing is starting to electrocute her arm. At least now. Haruto understands why this girl always obeys him. He's convinced it's all because of that bracelet. Then, in true Chad fashion, Haruto slides in on one knee, grabs her hand, and activates something. He performs a Control C, embedding the Kuisha frequency into that thing. Destroyed, he exclaims. Is it really that easy? That was too chill. I thought he'd pull some NASA-level move, like channel 1 billion mana into her so she could control Z back to the day before she had the bracelet. But no, he just hit her with a shockwave and broke it. While wondering why he couldn't use any abilities, Haruto turns to him and says, "Take a look for yourself." In a flash, Kurosaki vanishes and reappears right in front of him, saying he can't use any abilities anymore because he stole them. "Take that right in the middle of your chest, sucker." Kurosaki collapses like a mummy wrapped in bandages as hard as stone. Haruto walks over to the golem's heart and grabs it. It's ridiculous that they want something like this just to keep creating dungeon resets. "How many lives have they taken over this?" he exclaims. Then he activates the Kueisha frequency. In front of the two of them, it completely obliterates everything. The good news? Now he's the only person in the world with infinite mana. The bad news? Being the only one with infinite mana means everyone's going to be after him. But then the system chimes in because he destroyed the reward of an advanced dungeon. He's received a unique bonus. A little crystal orb appears in his hand, and the system announces that he's completed the secret dungeon of the golem's heart. Now I'm confused. Did he just complete it twice? Or was this dungeon even more secret than the other one? Let's see. It seems the doors are opening for the rest of the clueless hunters, who are all trying to figure out what's happening. One of them spots our guy and calls out for him. They want to know what happened to the rest of the team. Our little guy explains that they were sent to another part, so there's no need to worry. Looking around at everything destroyed and that poor sucker still pinned like a mummy, they wonder if he managed to win all of this on his own. To that, he just says, "Details later. First, everyone needs to get back." The next day at the association, our guy is visibly tense during a meeting. Nobody says a word. Shimano comments that it's unbelievable the dungeon was multidimensional. That's some seriously problematic information. Takeuchi, however, is just thankful that at least now they know why these dungeon resets occur. The leader, though, reminds everyone that the most important thing is that the seal Ishihara had placed has been broken. Plus, it was that multidimensional dungeon that triggered the disaster Grant faced 15 years ago. Everyone in the meeting is terrified, arguing that it's too early to make any judgments. The room erupts in chaos until Nanis loses her patience. As always, she slaps the table, stands up, and announces she's leaving. She's got work to do, like investigating the Blood Tower Association. Takeuchi tells her to calm down. Apparently, they weren't the only ones who had a hard time. The dungeon collapse that happened in the middle of the city wasn't easy either. Shirosaki has to call on everyone. Sekamath, of all things, and who would have thought the delinquent would be the calm one. Takeuchi then stands up and says he isn't there to talk about his own achievements. He moves over to Haruto and asks who he really is, the boy who was a crucial piece in ending his secret dungeon. Our humble kid replies that he's just a hunter. But of course Takeuchi isn't going to let that slide and asks if he doesn't even know who he is. Haruto, getting a bit cheeky, fires back that he's trying to figure out what it all means. He just dealt with a multidimensional secret dungeon, and instead of being thanked, he's being interrogated. "Come on, Takeuchi, are you about to start a fight?" Finally, everyone in the room is startled and tells him to calm down. Then the president calls Haruto over and warns that if he doesn't stop, he'll lose any rewards for his work. Greedy as ever, like a true capitalist, Haruto quiets down and leaves the room, muttering that he was only saved by the reward he wanted. Haruto, on the other hand, is impressed with that stone armor ability and already wants to copy it. Later, in the president's office, our guy is being questioned. He explains that he was once just an ordinary hunter from the Great Sage Guild, but now he's a freelancer. The president praises him. Being a solo hunter is tough, and what he did in that secret dungeon was incredible. Our kid, with little else to say, thanks him. But of course, the president isn't going to let him off easily. He wants to know what his plans are from here on out. Ares chimes in that she's heading back to her country to pass along some information, and Grant mentions that he'll be staying on a while longer. Plus, he's planning to leave the International Association. I don't know why, but we find ourselves at Haruto's place. Unfortunately, his living room has turned into a competition. There isn't even enough room on the sofa for everyone. Naturally, Haruto wants to know what everyone's up to. Grant says he just left the International Association and needs a place to stay. Ares asks why he did that, but he only replies that for now he can't say. Satoru says he just wants to stay near our guy. No excuses. You can have been a giant waifu, but no, not this cursed one. Nanis then appears to deliver a message from Narita. At that moment, Haruto wants to know, where are those two rascals? Apparently, Kurosaki is in the hospital because Arita refused to use Kralds on him. Once he regains consciousness, it'll transfer him to prison for interrogation. Meanwhile, Arita is being interrogated. Or rather, she is exercising her right to remain silent during questioning, which is incredible. Nanis, on the other hand, is already convinced that there is something going on between these two little troublemakers. Are you jealous? Then she reveals that Arita is a member of a K-pop dance group called AF. Satoru seems to recognize her, saying that now it makes sense because he thought he had seen her face before. Hermito then explains about that bracelet thing, that it forces her to stay by that guy's side, and he says he doesn't think she will continue acting that way. As soon as he gets a chance, he will go to the association to talk with her. Now he wants to know why Shirosaki is there. He coughs awkwardly, saying that there is only one reason for him to be in that place. Grant warns that if it is about the golem's heart, it would be better to give up, since the protagonist destroyed it in the dungeon. Everyone is startled, and immediately Shirosaki starts grabbing and pushing him around, demanding to know why he did something like that with such a rare item. Then that silly bastard shows the other one, a sneaky one, who is the clone king. Haruto, embarrassed, confesses that what he destroyed in the dungeon was actually fake. Grant, however, is certain that this is impossible, since if he had not destroyed the real one, the dungeon would not have been completed. At the same moment, Shirosaki already dropped about 5 billion in the middle of the room. That was the price he was willing to pay for that item. Our minister was surprised, but Nanas told him that that was little man. It is certainly worth much more than that. The association was willing to pay 8 billion. Satoru, however, showed a guy that there was an online auction for rare items where the first offer could start at 10 billion. Then Shirosaki says that he did not come here for nothing and that the kid had promised to sell it to him. Out of nowhere, he already offered 20 billion, saying that no matter the price, he is willing to take it. Sometime later, lying in bed, he is disbelieving that they are offering 20 billion for this thing. Not to mention that this one was a copy and paste, right? Imagine if he started selling several to other countries. For those who are not aware, you might be wondering why he can now copy, paste, and deliver. I don't know if I mentioned it or ended up forgetting, but there was a panel that said, now you can set the duration of the item, So that is why he can now pass it on to other people. I guess that's it. If I get any additional information, I will share it with you again. He was all celebrating until he gets up, saying that he forgot about the unique reward. A little crystal ball, which was a sealed item that would shatter when mana was inserted into it. For him, inserting mana was the easiest thing in the world. As soon as enough mana is poured in, a golden triangle appears. It was a dimensional piece. When he collects 5 of these, he could open a door to any dimension he wants. And the pieces have a property that one attracts the other. However, the number and level of dimensions you could open depend on the level of the key. He is all confused, but it seems that he will need 4 more, apparently, to be able to open somewhere. Obviously, he tries the basic thing, right? Like doing a Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V. However, the system warns that this item cannot be copied or pasted. He immediately gets angry, saying that this damn thing never works when he needs it the most. Then suddenly someone knocks on the door and he tells them to come in. It is the damn Grant who is always keeping an eye on everything, saying that he has something he wants to verify. The two exchange a glance for a second, and then so did the guy grab the sword. Haruto is about to ask what the guy is doing, but then he comes over and lands a full cut across our kid's chest. Yeah, obviously I can already imagine that he's trying to test if he has the ability to rewind time. But before we know if that is indeed the case, let's go back 15 years to when the Grant disaster happened in Europe. There is a dragon there that looks more like it is smiling than angry, but, a gigantic beast holding a bus in its hand. Some guys tell the mage that the creature is made of fire, so it would be good for him to use an ice attack. Wow! Like a total Naruto Uzumaki, jumping from his head to his arm to his back, he activated an ice attack directly toward the monster. However, it seems the beast easily shielded itself with its wings and threw him back. The people had no idea how they were going to defeat a rank-as creature out of nowhere like that. The dragon prepared another blaze attack and swept through the entire street. Apparently, Grant was there from behind, like an idiot, while his friend fled. The appearance of an abnormal creature turned the earth into hell, and as a newly awakened hunter, Grant threw himself to his death. The explosion was coming, and he just stood there waiting for the attack, until someone asked if the kid was okay. When he looked up, there was a giant figure there holding a shield. I think it was a shield with an all-red armor. Grant recognized him immediately. This guy was the most powerful hunter at the time, the one known as Frederick Hugh, right? Who is also the husband of Era's mother. Everyone is connected. However, in a split second, he got bitten by the dragon man and only a remnant of his body was left. Grant screamed in desperation, but then suddenly, the boss's expression changed and he started spitting blood. His body filled with a bunch of bubbles and the creature exploded from the inside out. Obviously, we already expected it. It was the aforementioned Frederick, appearing all swagged up and wielding the mighty sword. Of course, Grant was confused. This guy had just died right in front of him. Wow, is that the infamous Nishihara Tomoka? That badass could still be alive, right? Let's go find her in the other dimension. Where's all that vitality? She could have passed all that energy on to Erez, right? You disgrace. And she's over there saying that she already warned not to use those abilities in front of other people. Grant realizes that she only survived that explosion because she raised a barrier. And Frederick says that, unfortunately, this time it was an emergency, since that monster needed to be killed. She goes over to giving a little hug, saying that it really makes sense, especially since the scales of that creature were as hard as steel. Then Frederick tells the big guy to keep everything he saw a complete secret. He agrees, and at that moment, other hunters appear, impressed that the boss was killed. He then goes into his beloved's arms and says that it's time for them to leave. Poor Grant, completely off base, looks at the guy, puts his hand on his chest, and tells him to remember him. His name is Moore Grant, a newly awakened hunter. Frederick, still humble, gives a little smile and says you will remember that name. That sucker was left thinking that the strongest hunter in the world had an ability that transcended death. What he never imagined was that he would find someone else with that same kind of power. He knew it was crazy, but he wanted to see it with his own eyes. After plunging the sword into Haruto's chest, the next second he was on his back asking what Grant was planning to do. In that moment he relaxed just as he had imagined. This kid had the same ability as Frederick. He then apologizes, saying that he only tried to kill him to confirm something he had suspected. Of course, Haruto remarks that this was pure madness, and the problem is that someone else nearby calls for Haruto. Obviously, Satoru had seen everything too. Now things have gotten complicated for our boy. Next scene, Grant's banging his head on the ground, begging for forgiveness. Haruto asks where the hell this guy learned to do a doujeizer. You know, the Japanese thing where you slam your forehead to the floor. Eris explains she's the one who taught him. In Asia, she says, this is the proper thing to do when you've committed a crime. Then Grant goes, to make up for my sin, I swear I'll stay by your side forever, Haruto. Haruto shuts him down, telling him to quit deciding things on his own. Meanwhile, Satoru's curious. He wants to know if the protagonist actually has the same resurrection ability that Frederick Hugh once had. Haruto tells him to stop giving his power a name already. But since he didn't deny it, Satoru's already hyped, saying it's insane to think someone can just resurrect like that. Haruto figures, might as well let them believe that's his power for now. Out of nowhere, Eris calls him over and says she has something to show. Why did she find a piece of the triangle too? Of course, Haruto recognizes it instantly. Eris says she was tracking dimensional energy and ended up in that room with it. Haruto explains he got his piece after destroying the heart of that giant from the snowy mountain, a sort of one-time reward. Then Eris drops the bomb. Her piece was left to her by her mother. From what she's read, these pieces react to each other. And since she found Haruto, who's also carrying one, it all starts to make sense. Haruto thinks, well, at least that's good news. It means it might be easier to find the others. But Satoru, of course, wants to know the real question. What can you actually do with these triangles? Eris, as usual, knows everything. She says these can be used to open a dimensional gate. Now, I don't know if Satoru's got memory issues or if he's genuinely surprised, but the guy's like, wait, are you serious? Like he didn't already get this info from the system. What Eris adds, though, is that with a key, they might not just be able to open doors, but close them too. That's when Haruto realizes why she was so interested in that dungeon. She tells them she believes her parents are still alive, but trapped in another dimension. Grant agrees, saying he can't imagine anyone being able to kill those two. Satoru wonders if maybe the keys only exist in this world, or worse, that wherever her parents are, the door can only be opened from the outside. Eris admits that's a possibility, or maybe her parents actually chose to stay in that other dimension for some reason. Haruto figures that it only makes sense if something even worse than the Great Catastrophe was coming and they wanted to avoid it. But the important part, they now not only have a way to access other dimensions, but a way to close them too. As they all look at the triangle pieces on the table, Satoru wonders how they're supposed to connect. A little nudge from the golem activates some kind of magnet and boom. They snap together perfectly. The room lights up, and they're all staring like something amazing's about to happen. But nope, they just connected. Eris picks it up and says now she's convinced. The resonant sound got louder, and she can feel it. The person holding these pieces isn't just an ordinary human. Yeah, I don't know where she's getting all that emotion from, but there she is, our elven mystery. Still can't tell if it's a guy or a girl. Dang it, all hyped up, saying they can finally go home. Meanwhile, back at Starfield Guild HQ in Europe, someone calls out to a guy named Midshield, asking why he's laughing when the Blood Tower mission failed. Elflorin steps in and apologizes to Lord Michael, saying he's just happy Michael finally absorbed Troll F. That's the teleportation gift, right? With that, he's one step closer to becoming transcendent. The guy teleports again, then sits down, saying that for now, it only works over short distances. The catch? The ability will only level up when he gets Troll C. Midshield says it won't take long. His piece just started resonating big time, which means one of the 5 has been connected. Michael comments that clearly Midshield's eager to get back to his homeland. He asks if there are no dimensional keys over in the elf's country. The elf says there are keys, but the dimensional gates over there can't be opened anymore. 15 years ago, the Dan witch Tomoka Nishihara sealed off all the dimensions connecting their world to Earth. She tried to do the same thing on Earth, but the gates transformed into spatial keys instead. Michael realizes that's why combining the pieces lets you open everything again. The elf nods, saying the first step is returning to his homeland and accessing the sacred tree, Yggdrasil. There's something similar to Troll C there, something that once absorbed helps you grow other talents. Michael asks if he's sure about that, especially since the first time they met, Midshield seemed pretty shocked by his talent. The guy starts trembling, clearly unsure how to answer. That's when the leader stands up and says he knows the real reason. 15 years ago, the elf dimension was corrupted and tainted, and the sacred tree is about to collapse. That's why the elves connected to Earth, to try and dump all their mess onto this world. The plan only failed because Nishihara managed to shut it all down and seal the paths. He asks if it's true, and from Minshield's hesitation, well, it's obvious. But then the leader shrugs it off. He doesn't care. What he wants is to open up those multi-dimensional passages and absorb even more powers, even if that means dooming Earth. He says he'll take action himself. Midshield warns him that it's not time yet. He's the head of a multinational guild. If he starts moving now, it'll draw too much attention. That's why he shouldn't worry. He already told Lucas to go ahead with Plan B. Cut to the Forest of Death, an advanced dungeon in Japan. Someone's facing off against a bunch of level 90 ghouls. And of course, it's Haruto, with his male waifu. Seriously, man, you've had a ton of girls back there to partner up with, and you're out here hunting monsters with all dudes, or worse. Grant's sticking to him like glue, but already trying to flee because the monsters are too strong. Of course, Haruto doesn't want to leave, obviously. It was a whole ordeal just to get access to this dungeon. He wants to take full advantage and level up. He's already celebrating, telling everyone not to worry, that he'll go on ahead. The ghouls get ready, and Satoru tells him to be careful. Why is this dude already getting emotional? Nothing's even happened yet, you drama queen. The monsters all charge at our boy, and Haruto just starts spamming Troll V like crazy, summoning a whole army of golems. Naturally, the two idiots next to him are totally confused, wondering where the hell these golems even came from. Haruto's over there hyped, saying his minions are killing it. Grant, confused, starts questioning what Haruto's actual power is. Last he checked, it was supposed to be resurrection. The first ghoul goes in for a bite and lands it right on a golem's head. Satoru thought that was it. No way it'd survive. But nope. Not only does the golem tank the hit, it punches the ghoul right back in the face and slams it to the ground. With that, the squad pushes forward and starts absolutely wrecking the dungeon's monsters. Satoru just sits down at that point, realizing Haruto doesn't need help at all. A little while later, the golems had wiped out the werewolves. Just like Haruto expected, their resistances and stats were way above normal. He checks his inventory and notices the only issue now is that it's not big enough to support building a proper golem army. Thinking out loud, he says he'll need to come up with a more efficient system. Satoru tells him to go ask that Kinosaki guy, while Grant is already walking off, thinking he never should have left the International Association. He's feeling totally useless in this group. Cut to the car with Satoru, and Haruto's impressed this spoiled brat got a luxury car for his birthday, when suddenly he gets a call from Manix asking him to come to the association immediately. Satoru asks what's up, and Haruto says he doesn't know, but in truth, he's already guessing it's about Arita. Sometime later, in the interrogation room at the association, Arita's sitting there, lips all dried out. Doesn't the art here look just like that Hero of Return series? Same style. Pretty sure it's the same artist. Nanis explains that Arita's been refusing food and water for 3 days, but says she wants to talk to him. Haruto asks if it's possible to disable the recording of their conversation, but Nanis immediately refuses. No can do. Haruto starts weighing whether it's worth revealing his ability to try and copy hers. Having 2 overpowered talents might be worth the risk, so if it came to that, he'd pay the price. Inside the room, he offers her a cup of water and politely asks her to drink. She glares and takes a sip. Nanis goes, that'll help with dehydration. What a medical genius, truly. Sherlock Holmes of hydration. Haruto then wastes no time. He tells her his ability is infinite mana generation. She goes to say something, but he stops her and asks if she's been affected by the curse of the troll's ability. I thought she might hesitate for a moment, but nope, just drops a straight up yes. Now Haruto is sure he's not the only one cursed with that mark on the neck, which means if he can copy her Troll Z, he might be able to copy any troll ability. Eris overheard all of this and realizes that an ability that restores things to their original state is way more broken than just recovering them. Satoru, meanwhile, is over there completely lost, trying to figure out what the heck this Troll Z curse even is. That's when Arita makes her request. She wants help restoring the health of her parents, who've been in comas for a long time. She would need an insane amount of mana to do it, and only he can provide that. Haruno stands up and says he'll give her as much mana as she needs. But for here on out, he's gonna have to get a bit tougher. Suddenly, he reaches for the handcuffs and everyone's just staring, totally confused about what the hell he's doing. The whole room is suddenly flooded with a flash of light. A bubble of energy spreads out while he's holding her hand. Our sneaky guy's trying to copy Troll Z. Well, trying is the key word, because the system immediately notifies him that copying this skill is impossible. So much for that plan. Haruto already knew it wouldn't be easy. but he didn't expect to hit a total dead end with no options. Still holding her hand, he starts wondering what the hell he's supposed to do now. Arita, all sweet and clueless, just asks what he's doing. He suddenly lets go and says, "Oh, it's nothing," and apologizes. Then a system window pops up. Because it's not a standard ability, it can't be copied right now, but there might be a way with force absorption. And of course, Haruto knows exactly what that means. It's the method that only works if you kill the person. Problem is, he doesn't want to just murder Arita out of nowhere. Staring at her now, he starts racking his brain for another way to get that ability. Satoru's like, "Okay, I'm confused." And out of nowhere, Nanas picks up a mic and asks if something went wrong. Haruto says, "Nope, everything's fine, no need to worry." But inside, he's thinking the smartest move is to keep this girl close, at least until a better solution shows up. Right then, he says he's willing to go to the hospital where Arita's parents are. Later that same afternoon at Central Hospital, Arita explains her parents were afflicted with mana poisoning, something that happened 15 years ago during that mysterious attack. Once again, just like he suspected, she's always had reasons to stick close to Kurosaki. Haruto then asks Nanas if Kurosaki is being treated at that hospital too. She says yes, but he's down in the basement. The plan is to start interrogating him as soon as he wakes up. Nanas asks if Arita is okay with that, and she says she's not too worried. Suddenly, Grant senses something. That blonde kid from before walks by and seems to notice something too. Down in the basement in front of a gate, probably where Kurosaki is being kept, some guards stop the blonde and say only authorized personnel can pass. He hands them a card, thanks them for their hard work, and tells them to take a look. But when the guard checks it, there's nothing but Ctrl F written on the paper. Bro. In the same second, the blonde vanishes and both guards are engulfed in shadow. Their eyes turn pitch black, and next thing you know, they're just walking away saying he can go in and look around however he wants. The blonde guy heads through the door and walks up to the capsule where Shirosaki's being held. He activates a glowing purple orb in his hand, remembering how someone once told Lord Lucas that he was the only one who could pull this off. It was Midshield, the elf, who told him that if the Blood Tower mission failed, his job was to place several of those orbs all over Tokyo. He had asked what kind of cursed stuff this even was, and Midshield told him they were contaminated fruits from Yggdrasil brought over from his homeland. Basically, they could be used to create a barrier and open up a subspace. The blonde guy wants to know what's in this subspace. Midshield just tells him to take a look, and the guy nearly freaks out when he sees it. A giant, monstrous creature with a gaping mouth appears in another dimension, kind of like those horrors we saw in our good old librarian's world. Midshield warns that this is the most he can show for now. His mission was crucial for letting Starfield and the entire team move freely. Lucas was sure they were using him to trigger a dungeon break right in the middle of Tokyo. The problem? He also had family within Starfield, so backing out wasn't an option. Guess everyone in this world's got that one weakness. Family. Seems like it's the ultimate kryptonite for hunters. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Harita's dad starts waking up confused, asking what's going on. He looks to the side and sees his daughter hugging her mom, crying from happiness. Satoru's getting emotional, teary-eyed and all, while Nanas just looks over like, what the hell is this guy doing here? He says it's all thanks to Haruto, because not even a top-tier healer could have provided that much mana to let Arita use her ability like that. Meanwhile, Nanas' mind is racing. A skill that can rewind things to their previous state, that's insanely dangerous. She definitely need to keep an eye on this girl. Then the protagonist asks, where's more? Cut to Lucas casually strolling down the hospital hallway. Nothing suspicious at all. Until, out of nowhere, a system window pops up. Ctrl-F has detected a user with troll-type abilities nearby. And now it clicks right. Took me long enough to realize. That hooded guy walking next to him? Yeah, it's Kurosaki, a bastard has been released. And like an idiot, Lucas says out loud something about a troll user being nearby, and of course, Kurosaki hears it. He immediately assumes it must be Arita. Suddenly someone calls Lucas's name, Grant. He says Lucas's face was so hidden, he almost didn't recognize him. Then he demands to know what a hunter from the International Association is doing in Japan. Boom! Right then he spots Kurosaki and says, so, 2 Starfield dogs, huh? Lucas fires back, asking what Grant from the International Association is doing there. But Grant ignores him, draws a sword straight from thin air, and says that Kurosaki is a wanted criminal. Lucas tries to calm things down, says causing chaos in the middle of a hospital is insane. Meanwhile, Kurosaki's over here asking for a sword, since his entire inventory was confiscated. That's when Haruto appears right behind Grant, announcing he's here too. The moment he sees him, Kurosaki's fuming. Haruto is using the power that used to be his. Then a window pops up for Lucas. Right in front of him is the user with Troll-C and Troll-V abilities. His expression changes immediately. This is exactly what he's been searching for all along. But now someone else is walking down the hall, says, the problems just keep coming. And from the tip of the spear alone, we already know who it is. Lucas, now looking like a total idiot, starts hearing final boss music in his head. And there's the stunning Nanis, all suited up, saying, "Yup, the day just keeps getting worse." Kurosaki's already panicking. He warns Lucas to be careful with this damn Nanis. Tells him they'd better get out of there fast. Then bam, someone throws 2 handcuffs right in front of them. It's Nanis, cool as hell, telling them that if they put those on peacefully, maybe they won't have to get hurt. Kurosaki, feeling humiliated, grabs a civilian and warns them to back off, because there are already plenty of injured people in this place, but a lot more could get hurt if they push him. But boom, next panel, he takes a flying kick to the chest from Nanis. It's launched down the hall, smashes into the wall, and coughs up like a liter of blood. Poor Lucas is just standing there like, that escalated real fast. Nanis calls his name and tells him they should handle this peacefully. Lucas glances to the side and sees Kurosaki passed out, slumped against the wall. He figures, yeah, he's probably not gonna fare much better if he tries anything dumb. Then he remembers when Midshield handed him the Yggdrasil seed, he'd asked why he was the one chosen. The elf explained, the seed was cursed with mana corruption and normal humans couldn't touch it, but Lucas could, just like Kurosaki. He asked why, and the elf revealed the truth. Kurosaki had broken international law by using abilities powered by black mana, the same cursed mana the seed needed to work. That's when it hit Lucas. To the association, he's the same as Kurosaki. And just when you think maybe he'll try to talk things out, Lucas says, nope, there's no peaceful way out of this. He draws his sword, saying he needs Kurosaki and he's taking him no matter what it takes. The weapon Lucas is holding is instantly recognized by everyone. Grant knows that rapier, Angelus, an extremely rare weapon, passed down through generations of Britannia's heroes. There's only one of them in the world. It was equivalent to the legendary dragon Chalice sword, but instead of being made for slashing, Angelus was built for piercing. In the blink of an eye, Lucas lunges straight at Nanis. She tries to block with her launcher, but man, Angelus pierces straight through the spear and hits her square in the chest. Haruto flinches, worried, but she stays calm, tells him not to interfere. She turns to Lucas and says that clearly they're about to make a hell of a mess in this hospital. She pulls the blade out like it's nothing, and Lucas just stares, completely baffled about how the hell she blocked it. She moves in with a spear strike. He dodges just in time, still confused by how she managed to defend against a direct hit. But bro, stop thinking so much. You're about to catch a spear to the face. The attack seems to land clean, but Lucas barely manages to deflect it with his blade. Still, Nanis is clearly on another level. Her strength sends him flying backwards. He didn't even get stabbed directly, and he's already coughing up blood. Dude's got internal injuries and is suddenly realizing, yeah, his chances aren't great. Now he gets it, why Nanis is ranked among the 10 strongest hunters in the world. Desperate, he starts activating something in his sword, a feature he didn't want to use inside a hospital. But suddenly, someone yells her name, Nana Shinoda. It's Kurosaki, rising up from the back, holding the cursed Yggdrasil seed in his hand. He's straight up celebrating, saying the hospital they've been trying so hard to protect is about to be erased from existence. Oh boy. He slams it into the ground, and even Lucas says this is a terrible idea. But Kurosaki just grins. The more central in Tokyo it is, the better. And in this hospital, right in the heart of the city, perfect. Haruto has no idea what Kurosaki's even talking about, but Grant recognizes immediately black mana, a rare and corrupted energy. And it's shocking to see this much packed into a single item. Haruto quickly uses Control V to activate both Shadow Step and Web of Restraint. In the next second, boom, meets behind Kurosaki again, mummifying him with the web like before. But Kurosaki grins, too late. Before Haruto can finish him off, a flower blooms from the ground. Massive branches burst upward and the entire hospital starts collapsing. Bro, it's raining patience. A giant tree forms around the entire building and honestly, not gonna lie, it looks kinda beautiful in a nature apocalypse sort of way. But while I'm here admiring the view, the poor patients are not enjoying the ride. They're falling, screaming, some about to plunge to their deaths. Oh no. He let go of the girl's hand. She's gonna fall. But relax, Chad arrived to save the day with his web. You alright, miss? She goes, yeah, I'm fine. Then zip, off she goes. Bye-bye. Apparently our man already saved a bunch of patients. Problem is, nobody can get out of that place now. Nanis and Grant are working together, helping the others. But the entire hospital is surrounded by an absurd amount of black mana. Somewhere nearby, Satoru is calling out to one of the minions to lift a stone so he can pull people from under the rubble. Then Haruto shows up and Satoru asks what the hell happened. Our boy just wants to know if things are under control. Satoru nods, yeah, thanks to Erez, which of course makes Haruto ask, where is that damn Erez? They head over to his spot completely walled off by ice. He touches the surface and asks, what is this? And she casually replies, well, it's an amazing wall of ice, obviously. Turns out she placed several of these ice barriers in different rooms to keep the structure from totally collapsing. Problem is, it wasn't enough to block all the black mana. Haruto thanks her, saying that at the very least, it looks like things are stable now. Right away, Haruto talks to Arita and tells her, something strange just destroyed the entire hospital. The easiest way to fix it would be to restore everything. He asks if she can do that. She says yes, after all, she's restored entire dungeons before. And with him around, mana supply is the last thing she's worried about. Next scene, they're standing right in front of the tree trunk. Apparently, Kurosaki and Lucas managed to escape, and nobody seems all that worried about it. Like, oh well, they escaped. Guess we'll catch them later. Super chill for two fugitives, huh? Satoru asks where the tree came from, and Haruto explains. It was Kurosaki's doing, and now he's vanished. That makes Arita even angrier. Her parents were in that hospital, and that bastard put both their lives at risk. Eris is quietly observing the tree roots, so Haruto tells her to start the restoration. She begins channeling that warm, radiant energy into the trunk and places her hand on it. The ground starts trembling and the branches shake with it. Not sure if the tree is rewinding or regressing, but the roots look like they're pulling back. Everyone's watching anxiously, and then the whole tree begins to shrink. A giant portal forms in front of them, drawing in all the energy. But then, it looks like Arita loses focus. She stops casting. Haruto notices immediately that thing is the source of the black mana, and now she's in danger. Time for Chad to save the day again. Curl V, he casts a massive web wall to seal off the black mana. Not sure exactly what happened, whether the mana bounced off or got redirected, but suddenly, Arita's in his arms. Satoru asks if he's okay. Haruto says yeah, but one thing's clear. Arita failed to restore the tree. Haruto immediately gives the order, evacuate the hospital. He's convinced creatures could start crawling out of that portal at any moment. Since when is this kid giving orders like a captain? Huh. But hey, the others just go along with it. He turns to Eris and asks if she recognizes that thing. She replies that according to the knowledge passed down from her mother, it's something from another dimension known as a corrupted seed from the cosmic tree Yggdrasil. Its purpose? To attract and concentrate all the corruption from another dimension into itself. Maybe Arita's power didn't work because you can't exactly Troll-Z something that wasn't from this world to begin with. And the worst part? The records say this thing normally activates when 3 or 4 of them are used at once. 10 minutes later, outside the hospital, paramedics are trying to recover what's left of the victims. The poor F-rank hunters are doing their best, setting up weak magical barriers to try to suppress the black mana around the tree, but it's nowhere near enough. The association president can't believe it. Yet again, they're dealing with an extra-dimensional threat right in the middle of Tokyo. Nanas apologizes and says she's already sent out a hunter alert for Kurosaki and Lucas. Takeuchi doesn't miss the chance to take a jab, saying he never expected her to let those two escape. And if Lucas is involved, maybe it's time to confront Starfield directly. Shirasaki, however, says it's pointless. They'll just claim the Blood Tower as Japan's problem and refuse to get involved. But that's fine by him. He says he'll capture Kurosaki himself soon enough. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake again. The hospital seems like it's about to collapse. A guy comes running yelling that they've got a major problem. A second tree is sprouting up somewhere else in the city. Haruto immediately realizes Kurosaki is at it again. All because these idiots thought it was a good idea to capture and rehabilitate him instead of just cutting off his damn head when they had the chance. Now, all over the news, there's only one topic. 2 mysterious trees appearing in central Tokyo, both radiating strange black mana. Naturally, the citizens are starting to get anxious, wondering if life will ever go back to normal. Meanwhile, inside a car somewhere in the city, Kurosaki is just chilling, thinking to himself that there's no way he's getting caught in all this chaos. He even tells Lucas, "You're more ruthless than I thought. Never imagined you'd use black mana to brainwash people like that." Apparently, people are already starting to flee the city, and can you blame them? Prolonged exposure to black mana can cause the same illness that hit Arita's parents. In the car, Kurosaki keeps going on about the brainwashing thing and Lucas snaps, telling him to shut up. Kurosaki just smirks and says, "Relax, man." That was a compliment. They know the authorities must be desperate to track them, but as long as Kurosaki stays close to Lucas, there's no way they'll get found. Why? Because no one suspects they're hiding in a police car. Only 3 more to go, then it's time to move forward with the plan. Back at the Hunter Association HQ in the president's office, they're starting to realize that more trees might be planted. Eris had passed along the information, records left behind in her mother's books. When these trees start appearing, a disaster will hit Tokyo because the trees act as both gateways and barriers. Translation: they're about to get flooded with monsters from another world. Shiraseki is visibly shaken because this is exactly how the catastrophe 15 years ago began. Haruto, meanwhile, is starting to remember something. Way back when those same tree trunks burst out of the ground, he was in a car with his father. Of course, his dad was yelling at him to sit down and buckle his seatbelt before flying through the windshield. As the car sped down the road, they tried to outrun the rising trunks. Then, bam, one smashed right into the side of the car. Looks like Haruto had blocked these memories, but now they're all flooding back. And based on what he's seeing now, it was those same damn trees that caused his parents' death. Whoever's behind this, yeah, he's not gonna forgive them. And we all know exactly who that someone is. Kurosaki, you cursed bastard. Shirosaki says he doesn't remember the tree incident himself. Back then, he was busy dealing with dungeons elsewhere and didn't witness it firsthand. Then Eris steps in and explains that not only do the trees serve as portals to another dimension, they also open a kind of subspace. Nanis looks confused, while Shirosaki wants to know. Why go through all this trouble? Why bring contaminated things from another world? Nanis explains to create a black mana subspace, you need multiple corrupted trees gathering a massive amount of black energy in one place. Eris warns that in the worst-case scenario, a whole dimension could end up crashing down onto their planet. Haruto, though, he's smiling to himself. Because he's got a plan, use the tree's subspace in conjunction with the one in his inventory to build a golem army. Not sure how exactly he's gonna pull that off, but hey, he's got that I have a crazy plan and it might just work face going. And of course, Takeuchi the genius is standing there yelling at everyone to stop making up fantasy stories, calling it all idiocy. Like, bro, what? You're the creator of the universe now? You gotta witness something personally for it to be real. Then someone casually whips out a dimensional key. And suddenly, the same bald dude who just said, none of this is real is like, wait, are you seriously activating a dimensional key? Make up your mind, dude, have you seen it or not? Let us know. Eris explains that one piece came from her mom and the other is the one Haruto got back on the Golem Mountain. Now the bald guy seems to finally believe it, but he also knows 2 pieces won't be enough. Eris agrees but adds that it seems like another piece is drawing near. She believes that this disaster will also reveal the other missing pieces and that they'll be the key to fixing everything. Meanwhile, the delinquent Harry Potter isn't exactly thrilled with how things are unfolding. The president then points out that if the portals open, it won't just be a problem for Japan. It'll affect the whole world. They need to find all 3 pieces urgently. That's when Shirosaki drops a bomb. His guild also has one of the pieces. Cut to a little while later at the future guild's warehouse. Our guy stands in front of the door, totally impressed by how secure the place is. Takeuchi comments, I knew Shirosaki was obsessed with dungeon items, but I never imagined he'd create an entire subspace just to hide one thing. Naturally, Haruto wants to know exactly how he did it. Meanwhile, that Dan bald guy, who we're all ready to see go, mutters that he probably ended up with a fake item. But Haruto's system for tracking the pieces clearly shows the next one's pointing right this way. Both pieces are resonating. Shirosaki then taps his digital interface and the doors open. I expected a ton of items, but it's really just that one little piece sitting in the middle of a giant crystal. The bald guy keeps asking, why would you need such a high security place just to store a tiny trinket? Haruto cuts him off, saying that from now on, only he and Shirosaki will handle it. Naturally, Takeuchi loses his temper and asks who he thinks he is. But to help out our guy, Arez chimes in that combining the pieces is incredibly dangerous, so it's best if it's just the 2 of them. Shirosaki then orders that Takeuchi back off. Just the 2 of them will handle this. Mike Tyson, albino style, isn't having any of it and warns that if anything goes wrong, he'll personally kill both of them. But our guy just shuts the door, bidding the idiot goodbye. Once inside, Haruto sees that the piece Shirosaki holds is number 4. Now he wants to know where Shirosaki got it from. Shirosaki grumbles that he isn't going to answer, it's just a means to an end. Once the pieces are combined, he plans to rush inside the barrier so nothing bad happens. Haruto feels confident. He's protected by his web of shadows and his shadow step ability. But before he can remove the pieces from his inventory, piece number 4 starts reacting. Suddenly, an item flies straight toward him, causing an explosion right in the room. There wasn't even time for Shirosaki to react before the door outside is blown apart. Nanis already senses that something's about to go down. The door is shattered from the inside and Shirosaki is calling out for Sano. Then he hears someone's voice saying they thought they were going to die. Of course, that person used their shadow step ability to dodge the impact. Looking at his inventory with the 3 pieces, Haruto mutters that he never imagined they'd fuse on their own. But Shirosaki is clearly pissed. The kid, already brimming with weird abilities, and also has a very rare movement power. Haruto tells Shirosaki not to be too shocked and that he can explain. But then this guy grabs him by the neck and throws him to the ground. Man, if I were Haruto, that delinquent Harry Potter would have his head ripped off by now. He's demanding to know why, and Shirosaki retorts that it's impossible to use the Shadow Step without black mana. He insists that Haruto needs to explain himself. Haruto doesn't really know how to explain it. His urge to kill that damn Harry Potter is overwhelming. He obviously doesn't want to admit he's using Troll V, so he just says that he can't possibly use dark magic. But Shirosaki isn't satisfied. He wants to know how, then, Haruto is using a magic that clearly taps into black mana. Before long, the guy is unleashing dark electric energy on our boy. What the hell is this? Hey, come on now, are you guys losing your minds? Don't you know he's the master of Troll C? Wow, and it looks like Haruto can't escape because this black electricity is a power that counters his Shadow Step. That bastard starts accusing Haruto, saying you've been suspicious of him ever since the Koisha dungeon. He wants to know exactly who Haruto is, what went down on that mountain, and what his connection is with that Dan Kurosaki. Haruto can't believe this guy actually thinks he's in cahoots with Kurosaki. Just because they share a similar ability doesn't mean they're partners. And now he's stuck face to face with him. Finally, the guy starts losing his cool. He's like, let's go crazy, Haruto, start killing everyone. Just the thought of it has him pissed off. He fires off a Troll V, unleashing a flurry of his web abilities and mocks, it's ridiculous that Shirosaki wants to kill me over something so trivial. Take a bath in your own web, sucker. Turn into a little furball. But as soon as the blow lands, Haruto immediately regrets charging in. His cat ball form is getting shredded in an instant. In a split second, Shirosaki breaks free and Haruto's forced to defend against the counterattack. Then that damn Harry Potter character, as he's mockingly called, goes on saying if Haruto doesn't want to talk, it's because he's hiding some secret, and he's gonna die because of it. That's when Haruto remembers, man, I picked a fight with a level 500 hunter. He barely made it to 300, and now his only option is to win by any means necessary. He pulls out a top-quality potion that restores 95% of his health. Shirosaki's attack comes barreling toward him, and Haruto scrambles to defend. What the heck is this? Oh, I get it. He let his health drop below 25% to trigger the Callous Berserker mode. Right after taking Shirosaki's hit, he draws his sword and counterattacks. Take that, you pathetic Harry Potter, he shouts. The barrier starts cracking, and he's dumbfounded at how it's even happening. Then, a flash of light erupts, and the whole place starts exploding. Agonize already, you bastard, someone yells. No one meant to hurt our guy. Then a flashback hits. Shirosaki is seen talking with his brother, deciding they wanted to be the strongest in the future, which is why they named their guild Future. They really must have been running on a 10 IQ idea, huh? This bright, shiny fellow is Shirosaki Suga, and you'd think he should have been dead by now with that innocent, almost naive smile. 10 years ago, they were face to face with a creature, while his brother wielded a bunch of talismans. And this time, he even managed to beat the so-called Demon Lord of Hell. Even when the creatures were insanely dangerous, they didn't flinch. In front of a dungeon gate, Stouda mentioned having a weird feeling, like some uninvited hunters had slipped into the group. But Shirosaki, ever the knave one, declared it was the perfect chance to snag a dungeon controlled by Midas. This was their ticket for the Future Guild to break into the top 10 strongest in the nation. Besides, he didn't have to worry because his brother was there. Yet Stouda just silently watched the mummy guy. Next thing you know, the boss is dead along with all the hunters torn apart on the floor. Clearly, the mummy guy finished off his own brother, and Shirosaki is screaming for answers. But the mummy just tells him to give up on his brother. He was contaminated by an addiction to black mana, a disease that would soon turn him into something even worse than a ghoul. Shirosaki then orders that the bastard hand over the antidote immediately. The mummified guy says, give me your Shadow Step ability and I'll show you how to save your brother. Refuse and you're dead. So it looks like Shirosaki reluctantly hands over the ability. I love how practical this world is. If you have a power, you just pass it on like a credit card. There you go, man, take it home. When he asked for the antidote, the guy revealed that he'd need the sword known as Brilhance. It was the only way to cure his brother's mana poisoning. Naturally, Shirosaki panicked. He wanted an antidote, not this kind of information. Then the guy dropped another bomb. There's no real antidote for a mana addiction. But that didn't really matter since this dungeon was about to collapse, and they'd both die anyway. Shirosaki acted even more naive than the characters in those cheesy stories, insisting that it looked like the bastard had planned to kill him from the start. The guy began to fade away, saying it wasn't yet time for the world to know about the existence of black mana abilities, or black mana itself. That's when the whole place started getting destroyed. At that moment, Suda showed him the item he found in the boss room. Shirosaki had no idea what it was for, but it looked completely different from any other item. In desperation, Shirosaki told him to forget about that damn item and focus on surviving. They needed to use an ability to get out of there. But Suda replied that there was no way to save him, and then he used a forced return ability on Shirosaki. Poor Harry Potter, as he was mockingly called, screamed in desperation, demanding to know why, but his brother could only apologize. Suddenly, he reappeared in the guild's office, crying uncontrollably while clutching the dimensional triangle. Back in the present, during his fight with our dear Haruto, Shirosaki explained that for the 10 years following that incident, he'd searched every dungeon but never managed to find that exact piece again. He doubted his brother was even still alive. Haruto then understood why this guy was so obsessed with raiding every dungeon he could get into. Haruto was downing a potion because, even though the Berserker effect was incredibly powerful, the cost was steep. Shirosaki warned him about that, which was why he'd been researching black mana and dark abilities despite the inevitable punishments. The Shadow Step is an extremely rare ability, and aside from that guy wrapped in bandages, no one else should be able to use it. Haruto then offered to explain how he managed to use it, but Shirosaki interrupted, saying it wasn't necessary anymore. He'd seen that Haruto had just used the Dragon Sword of Callus. That could only happen if Haruto possessed some kind of ability to copy or steal other skills. Shirosaki apologized for not knowing that our guy was a bandit, but insisted that everything was now clear. Haruto shot back, "It's not clear. I'm not a bandit." They argued for a bit, and after a while, Shirosaki said that once the dimensional key was complete, he wanted to go along. He also insisted that he should be the one to kill Kurosaki. Haruto only replied that he didn't really care about Kurosaki anymore, apparently. Speaking of that bastard, Kurosaki was already out there causing more destruction in Tokyo. Suddenly, the door to the battleground swung open and Grant, looking at our guy all beat up, asked if something had happened. Haruto explained that it was just the combination of the keys that created that huge explosion. Nanis then urged them to hurry, pointing out that while they'd been inside, the contaminations had continued to spread. Shirosaki knew that it was all Kurosaki's doing, and he was already itching to go kill him. That Eris warned that, judging by Kurosaki's movements, she could guess where he'd strike next, apparently in the city of Ginza. Nanis agreed, noting that since Ginza is huge and packed with people, it could mean mass casualties. Haruto wanted to protect the city, of course, but there wasn't enough webbing to contain a portal spewing millions of monsters. Shirosaki said he'd call on the future guild to take down that bastard, while Nanis declared she'd contact every other guild. She even suggested that Grant and the protagonist join her at the association to start helping, but our guy was too emo for that. He insisted he prepare everything on his own. Nanis couldn't help but ask, "Why do you want to handle this all by yourself?" He replies that he's sure the subspace will be huge, so it's going to be a numbers game. She retorts, "All right then, are you going to stop talking about your plan?" Shirosaki is already heading out, saying he wants to see him do his best. At that moment, our guy announces he's going to need Grant's help, who's finally getting recognition for his value. Our protagonist adds that yes, he's come to appreciate Grant for being the perfect guy to carry all the stuff he needs. Meanwhile, at Starfield's Operations HQ, that weird-ass elf I've been absolutely hating on is saying that Japan's call for help has come in. In other words, the time has arrived. Michael isn't too happy about it because the barrier still doesn't seem complete. He asks if the subspace is going to open properly, and the elf insists it will. The place is already filling up with orcs and goblins, and the situation is becoming ripe. A guy in a helmet chimes in that it's ridiculous to think goblins and orcs alone will be enough. With Takeuchi and Nanis, the Japanese would wipe them out in no time. And now it seems the whole colorful crew, yellow, green, and blue hats like some kind of Power Rangers, are doubting the plan. But the guy tells them not to worry, that the master and he will handle everything. Minshield reminds everyone that it's no accident they prepared countless cursed trees. The subspace is even bigger than before. The White Ranger gets excited, saying that with this, even with help from the Americans, it wouldn't have managed. Midshield is convinced that if he drops this massive debuff in the middle of Tokyo, it'll be curtains for that place. Michael celebrates, swearing that by the land he comes from and by Yggdrasil, this time the plan will work. He's already heading out, telling everyone not to worry. This isn't the first time he's opened his subspace in Tokyo. "Ah, you bastard. So you were the one who stirred things up in the past, too." Meanwhile, over at the White House in America, President Biden, looking a few decades younger and sporting an albino complexion, is visibly shaken by this whole dimensional mess reopening in Japan. On the other end, Logan Bauman, the black-skinned CIA director, explains that it's the same kind of catastrophe that happened 15 years ago. Naturally, the president is even more worried about something like this happening on American soil, but the folks tell him to relax. Since it all seems to be happening over there, they're pretty calm. Biden asks how the International Hunter Organization is reacting, and Logan replies that it seems Michael from Starfield is heading over there to help out. Yeah, he's coming. He'll offer plenty of assistance. You can count on Michael. A woman nearby finds it all odd, wondering why a hunter as famous, rich, and powerful as him would want to help Japan during a catastrophe. He just shrugs, saying he has no idea. Suddenly, she looks startled. She just received a call. Apparently, it's from the president of the American Hunters Association sending a video message. As she turns on the TV, Simon Defrey appears, explaining that they're facing a huge problem. Biden remarks that if it's about Japan's accident, he's already been briefed. The guy says it's something like that, but that everything seems to be spiraling out of control. This is because the Ouroboros Guild is heading straight to Japan. That development leaves Logan a bit confused. He wonders if Turner isn't going to handle it in person. Defrey responds that it's not even that. It seems Turner took all the equipment from the American guilds. Logan says it's crazy to send someone like that to another country, since he wields as much power as an entire military force. If he went berserk in a peaceful country like Japan, it'd be a huge problem. To be honest, the Japan we're seeing isn't exactly peaceful these days. Logan asks what the association is planning to do, and the guy simply replies that there's not much they can do to stop that guy. Then Biden says that things are becoming something that goes beyond Japan. They were meant to prepare the best hunters and send them there too, but kept it under wraps. Back in the city of Sakure's, trees keep sprouting everywhere. Meanwhile, Lucas Idiot is monologuing that now, just like Kurosaki said, he's become just like that bastard, using the excuse of protecting himself, his family, and his father as the reason behind everything. It all started the day he received the Troll F curse. Suddenly, information from all over the world, wishes, events, everything began flooding his mind. He could even sense the consciousness of dead monsters. A whole week passed and he couldn't even wake up, lost in the vast sea of data. Exhausted, he even tried to take his own life to end that damned Troll F curse. But, ironically, it was then that he found a will to live, the inheritance left in his family's hall. The Angelus Rapier, a sacred sword. Just by holding it, the Troll F curse was instantly nullified. Finally, he had a way to understand and control that accursed ability simultaneously. That's why, from that day on, he always kept the sword with him. But obviously, this wasn't just any sword. It was a national treasure that everyone, in one way or another, wanted used to protect the country. When several accidents began happening, Ishihara, the one who sealed the portals, started asking his father to hand over that sword so they could use it to kill the creatures. But to protect it, his father always refused. In a way, because of him, indirectly, they suffered countless losses since the sword was extremely powerful. And with that, the Cooper family lost all their status and power. Determined to restore their glory, he began trying to master the Troll F curse. It's almost ironic, trying to deliver an epic speech, and then casually dropping a Troll F, but the bastard was there, absorbing black mana, because he realized that was one of the few ways to control it. In his quest to learn black mana, he encountered that damn mint shield, Michael, and thanks to them, the family regained the power they once had. But the price was astronomical. As soon as Michael discovered he had Troll F, his talent was used to track down targets. When people were found, Michael would finish them off and steal their powers. For a long time, he's been using the excuse that he was just following orders for the sake of family and to restore his father's glory. But the truth is, he obeyed Michael because he was terrified of being killed. Honestly, he was nothing but a coward. And now he's scared stiff of what will happen if Haruto Sano's Curl C falls into that guy's hands. Then he seems to toss his sword into his inventory, and at that very moment he's overwhelmed by a flood of information. He starts searching for our boy's outfit until he finally finds Curl C. What, you bastard? Didn't you already know who he is? You're tracking down his whereabouts in the world. Fast forward, now we're on a plane soaring through the skies. This clone of XXXTentacion turns out to be none other than Turner Miller, the #1 hunter in the world. The #1 in the world? I thought he was just from the United States. But no, he's the real deal. The system even rates his level as immeasurable. The kid's literally broken the game. Now you, the author, knows what level he's at. Then the guy next to him asks why he's heading to Japan in a private jet instead of using a teleport. Are you crazy? A trip to Japan like that takes about 10 hours, man. Seriously, it would have been better to take the teleport. But then Temptation asks if Richard forgot their motto. All skewed, he replies that he never forgot. Their motto is, the moment you let your guard down, danger will appear out of nowhere. Wow, what a grand motto. Can we please get a summary of that? Looking out the window, Turner Miller, our clone of XXXTentacion, remembers that 15 years ago, when Japan's disaster hit, he was just a lowly rank a hunter. It was Nishihara who saved him, and not long after, he received his transcendental ability. In the blink of an eye, he became one of the strongest hunters in the world. It seems something was given to him right before the disaster ended. Hey, you rascal, got another bag of Doritos, huh? He muses, as if this whole situation is straight out of a Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel. Your turn. It's time for a duel. Now he's excited because after 15 long years, that dimensional piece has finally started resonating. So what exactly is happening in Japan right now? Back in Ginza, Tokyo, just as Eras had predicted, the subspaces are beginning to open and black mana is starting to pollute the area. Master Shinoda, who, come to think of it, looks like Doctor Strange from the deep web, is busy purifying the air with some high-tech kit. But it's obvious that he can't handle everything this cursed tree is doing all by himself. The rest of the association is also pulling out all the stops. Meanwhile, Takeuchi is out on the streets of Midas City, just waiting for the creatures to start appearing. The president wants to know what the other guilds are saying. She explains they're helping evacuate citizens, though not everyone will be able to escape in time. He then demands to know where the hell the protagonist is. She tells him the guy claimed he had a different important mission. He's a bit confused. What could be more important than saving all of Tokyo from annihilation? She admits she's curious too, but insists he didn't seem to have any bad intentions. Then, some other guy, Ikemegai Aoa, asks why they keep mentioning Sano's name. I'm starting to think the author of this work is such a gossip. Every time someone's name is dropped, another person overhears and wants in on the scoop. Over at a hunter mall in Ginza, Satoru emerges, loaded with backpacks, boasting he brought everything he was asked for. The problem is, they seem to have brought way too much, and Grant is complaining, wondering what they're going to do with it all. Haruno is trying to use Curlvy on the Callous Sword, but the system warns him he doesn't have enough mana. What are you trying to do, clone the sword for everyone? I'm not really sure either. Satoru announces they already gathered over 1,300 items, but apparently it's still not enough. Grant asks if he's sure about the plan, and Haruto says this is their best bet right now. What he really needs, though, is a bit of subspace to be able to copy and paste. Then, mid-stride, the blonde guy shows up right in front of them. Grant opens his mouth to say something, but the blonde just orders him to shut up, insisting he wants to talk with Haruto. Obviously, he first demands that Haruto put down that extremely dangerous sacred sword, but Haruto's grinning. If there's one thing he loves, it's a powerful sword. After all, with the Curl-C/Curl-V talent, it's always a solid choice. He suddenly drops all his bags and teleports behind Lucas, confident that now that he's reached the highest level, copying will be a piece of cake. But Lucas quickly backs away and warns him to keep his distance with that damn Troll-C. Naturally, Haruto is confused. How does that bastard even know about his keyboard? He pretends to be clueless. What are you talking about? I don't know anything about a Troll-C trick. The blonde, however, makes it clear that there's no use hiding. It seems he's got all the information. The cut is coming for Haruto, but his Shadow Step is ridiculously overpowered. It appears right behind him. However, Shadow Step is a dark ability, a weakness when fighting against a sacred sword. In that moment, Lucas drives the sword into the ground, unleashing a flashbang that lights up the entire city. Looking out the window, Haruto says it feels just like that time with Shirasaki's black light. It was so intense that it practically erased his shadow, making it impossible for him to move within it. 200 IQ, huh? But then again, you can do that with the spotlight too. The blonde guy approaches and remarks that the reason Haruto is standing still is because all the abilities he's copied so far must be of the dark element. Haruto thanks him for the tip, promising that next time he'll be sure to copy something different. The real issue now is that he needs to find a foolproof way to get a grip on that sacred sword. While Haruto ponders his next move, Lucas chimes in, insisting that the whole mess he's caught up in is because of that damn Troll-C ability he possesses. Immediately, our protagonist is convinced that this guy must also have some kind of troll ability. He asks, "Are you trying to kill me to steal my talent? Is that why you join up with Kurosaki?" Lucas loses his cool and launches an attack, telling him not to mix him up with that trash. Wow, he lands a solid blow right in Haruto's chest. Even Lucas seems surprised. He didn't expect to hit him so easily. But Haruto was just trying to stay composed. He activates Curl-C on the Sacred Angelus sword, though the system warns that if he copies and absorbs the sacred sword, he won't be able to use his Shadow Step ability. Realizing this, Haruto calmly backs away and pulls a potion from his inventory to recover. He thought that since his ability is mostly about copying, and isn't inherently dark mana, he could keep both powers. Lucas already notices that the bastard let himself get hit in order to trigger the copy. Then he says he's going to ask one last time. What exactly is Haruto planning to do with Troll-C? Haruto explains, "Obviously, I'm aiming to become the most powerful hunter, someone who'll surpass even all the transcendent ones." Dodging Lucas' attacks, he adds that ever since he received this talent, time has never been on his side. Apparently, he wasn't aware of the curse it carries. He only has 5 years until the catastrophe strikes. Lucas is completely baffled by this talk of scarce time and impending disaster. When he absorbed his talent, so much information came at him at once that everything became a blur. Haruto debates whether to copy the sword or not, fearing he might lose his Shadow Step in the process. The system then warns that he can no longer copy it. "Guess I'll just take another sword hit. Might as well, it's free," he thinks, planning to clone it later. Then right at that moment, a flash of lightning splits the sky. Everyone realizes that what they dreaded is about to begin. The system alerts them that a portion of another dimension, home to the black spirits of the subspace, has opened up in Tokyo. The designated area will be contaminated, reducing all hunters' HP and MP by 30% and imposing restrictions on the number of abilities and mana they can use. Damn, that portal is devilish. It's debuffing the entire city. We flash back a few minutes to when a massive tree was demolishing the city. As it fully evolved, one section of that dimension completed itself, and everyone in the area received the same mana warning. Kurosaki was celebrating. Once this subspace opened, Tokyo was destined to turn into hell on Earth, and the mission would be complete. Then someone shouts that they won't let this happen. With thunder crashing down, you know what comes next. Bandit Harry Potter appears, declaring that today, Kurosaki dies. The bastard retorts that he doesn't care. It was too late. The contamination had already begun, and Tokyo was now destined for destruction. Kurosaki just shrugs it off, saying he doesn't give a damn. He's going to kill him plain and simple, especially since the black mana debuff isn't affecting him. Both of these bastards use black mana, so at that moment, neither of them is being debuffed. Damn. But now Kurosaki has switched to devil mode, warning that he isn't the only one who knows how to use black mana. Every hunter on standby receives the message, and they all get pretty spooked. It's the most intense debuff they've ever suffered, on top of not being able to use several of their abilities. The guy with the little occluded head keeps trying to trigger some skills, but nothing works. Even that footed chick, who looks like a character straight out of Adventure Time, says that even her recovery abilities aren't taking effect. Nanas feels the pressure mounting and informs the president that things aren't going to be easy. He agrees, admitting that dealing with the bigger monsters without nearly any skills is going to be a real challenge. Then, out of nowhere, a cyclone starts ripping through the city, sweeping away buildings. Up in the sky, the rift opens. The first thing to emerge is a foot, and when everyone looks up, who do they see? None other than that damn midshield. The hunters are puzzled. Why would an elf show up now? Then someone points down. Of course, a swarm of monsters is already pouring in. The poor hunters haven't even had time to start a proper fight before their morale is shattered. Meanwhile, the cursed Midshield apologizes, saying he's been gone for 15 years, but he's back now. Over on the bridge, Takeuchi, oh, I can't stand him, but at least the guy has some swagger, is sitting there waiting for the monstrous horde to arrive. He goes on, declaring it ridiculous to think they can win just because they have more numbers. His stone armor activates and the creatures come charging, only to get a massive punch right in the face. The beast falls like a piece of trash. He laments it's a pity for the monsters, but his armor ability never uses mana. At least he's got that advantage. The downside, though, is that he's alone against a horde of giants. Or maybe not too bad, because in the very next panel, he's already taken care of everything with a single sweeping move, tearing through the enemies. That raw strength boosted everyone's morale just enough for them to muster the courage to take down a level 1 goblin. All the while, Nanas is calmly clearing the path. An ogre suddenly appears from behind, charging at the president. Let's see how he handles that. The president glares at the creature and activates his giant shield. The ogre slams into it, and the club shatters on impact. Dude, he literally used his shield as a weapon, cutting down not only that ogre, but 3 more charging from behind. Nanas is clearly impressed. It's no wonder this item is so rare. She decides to let the president and Takeuchi handle the big monsters. The only remaining problem is the rest of the hunters. Their combat abilities take a severe hit without their skills, and creatures are still being endlessly poured out of the portal. Then suddenly, something comes soaring overhead. A phoenix appears to fall, but she dodges just in time. Oh no, in that split second when she turns, it's clear it's not a phoenix at all, but something like a griffin, a level 150 boss-type creature. I thought it looked somewhat friendly, but now it's clearly in attack mode. Definitely not friendly. Immediately, Nanas charges at it, and the creature unleashes a burst of flames. Back at the moment with our protagonist and his crew, everyone gets hit with a debuff alert. Naturally, Grant isn't happy at all. Those who rely on their abilities now have virtually no chance to fight. Our guy warns Lucas that there's no time for fooling around. It's time to save this place. And above, the skies are being overrun by countless dragons. Satoru and Grant are fleeing with their backpacks, although I'm still trying to figure out what on earth those are for. Well, I guess I'll make my guess here. Do yours too. I bet he brought a ton of swords to equip his golems. I might be completely off, but that's my wager. He's fleeing, and it's weird because Lucas is running right beside him, which is kind of confusing. Maybe that's not such a bad thing, since it means he's closer to stealing the sword with Troll C. After all, the priority right now is leveling up the monsters on Earth. While he's sticking to his humble, low IQ plan, Nanas is locked in a face-off with the monster's attack. With guts, she goes right at it, ready to take some damage if it means finishing off the creature. Then something brushes past her. The president steps in with his massive shield, defending her and warning that he'll hold the creature off so she can decapitate it. She just nods and charges in. The monster begins sweeping through the area, but then she jumps, gets on top of it, and lands a slash. But that bastard isn't stupid. He manages to dodge. She hadn't expected him to be so clever. The damn guy even came over to trample her. In response, she's forced to defend herself with her spear, but the monster sets up a frontal assault. However, the captain then flings his shield like a boomerang, forcing the beast to dodge. She thanks him, and he replies that by the looks of it, these creatures are worse than he imagined. And now that damn boss is on high alert, making it hard to catch him off guard. Seriously, what a boring boss, already gearing up for another attack. Give us a minute of peace, will you? He was trying to plan something, but Nanis just orders him to send his spinning shield, promising she'll handle it. He complies, and as the shield flies through the air, she uses it like a trampoline to get onto the boss's back, lands a slash, and finally decapitates that useless monster. Man, that creature was one of the first to show up. Surely there will be a whole bunch more. Speaking of which, there's a giant steel brute over there wrecking poor random hunters. Those poor guys trying to devise a plan, then look at that guy pulling out a scroll. What are the chances he can actually do something with it? Whoa, what's that? He sliced everything up. Seriously, that scroll is even more dangerous than I thought. But as soon as they start celebrating, one of them suddenly collapses, spitting blood. The next one feels the same, and before you know it, the whole group is down. That's when the damn midshield shows up, saying they realize too late. Every subspace creature released a huge amount of black mana when killed. They had no choice. If they hadn't killed them, these monsters would have destroyed the city. He spreads his arms, summoning even more, and warns them that there's a lot more coming. The little hunter, poor guy, instantly realizes that Tokyo is doomed. Then someone appears and shouts, "No, man, it's not the end yet. It's our kid." After 10 chapters of hauling those bags back and forth, stepping in. But with all that swag, he tells the guy things are just getting started, man. That dude recognizes Sano, bro. Out of nowhere, our boy's getting famous around town. He immediately hands over some potions, saying there's no time to talk. The guy's kind of confused, right? Saying it'd be better if Senpai got out of there. But our guy just tells him to chill. He's gonna handle everything. He tosses the bags on the ground and says the first thing he needs to take care of is this awful debuff. A bunch of windows starts popping up, right? The damn Troll Plus C must be on fire. Mana's spreading everywhere, and finally, everyone's gonna be able to use their skills again. Obviously, it's not the same as when there was no debuff, but hey, it's way better than nothing. Once again, people start recognizing Sano Man, saying they're remembering that useless guy that got mana. And it looks like the mana's even reaching Nanis and the captain over there. It's spreading through the whole city for real. A bald guy says that now, with that amount of mana, maybe he can finally do something. They start fighting off some of the monsters, and of course, the one who's not liking this at all is Midshield. He starts weighing his options, and when he looks at the protagonist, he already guesses. Yeah, it's gotta be Troll Plus C. The folks I thought were about to do something, even with the mana, start complaining it's still too hard because there's just too many creatures. They knew that at this pace, they were gonna lose. Then Sano walks by with a bunch of backpacks. I seriously want to know what the hell's in those things. People thought it was crazy, saying they were nuts to just run straight at a monster horde like that. That's when our boys' group stops face to face with the creatures. Satoru's already freaking out, but Haruto tells him to calm down and start pulling everything out of the backpacks. Gran starts tossing what looks like a bunch of red balls on the ground. The little golem does the same. Just like us, the other hunters are all confused, not understanding what the hell this kid is trying to do. And that's when Sanma tells the golems to start leveling up. He starts Troll Plus Ving into the monster's cores. Nanis is nearby, and so is the blonde guy, both of them totally clueless about what this madman's trying to pull. That's when a bunch of tiny golems start rising up from the ground. Nanis has no idea how he's summoning so many at once. Then one of the bosses comes in and punches, breaking a bunch of them right away. The hunters start thinking the kid's plan might not be very useful after all. But man, the number of enemies is endless, and the little golems that survive start climbing up the monster's arms. The first one to reach its head morphs its hand into a knife and starts stabbing, bringing the thing down. Then they jump on the next one and the next, repeating the process. The hunters start to gain confidence. They finally feel like they have a shot thanks to these little guys. That's when Satoru and Grant say they're jumping into the fight too. And the golems from our boy, man, they leveled up like crazy and all hit level 3. That unlocks skill number 4, which let Haruto give them specific commands. What he liked too was that now he could share senses over a much greater distance. So he activates skill number 3, which lets him regenerate a golem in a different form. The 3 of them merge together, blow up, and out of that, a giant appears. Haruto says it's finally time to take down the wyverns. And man, turns out he made a golem dragon. The thing takes off into the air, and all the hunters are just standing there, totally confused. Then one of the wyverns blasts a stream of fire at the golem. Bro, I thought it was gonna be one of those epic moments where the golem just flies right through it and comes out untouched. But nope, the dragon grabs it midair and just slams it into the ground like trash. Completely shattered. What a mess. Haruto's standing there thinking, yep, just like he figured. Going head-on with a wyvern like that out of nowhere was basically impossible. So he hits Troll plus V on the respawn and little dragons start coming out of the ground. The hunters aren't buying it since the big guy didn't stand a chance. Another blast of fire comes from the wyvern, hitting all of them directly. Nanas thinks the whole thing is stupid, like if they all keep getting hit like that, the result's gonna be the same. But then, weirdly enough, one of them starts spinning like a bee-blade and creates these vortexes of fire that shoot out attacks piercing right through the wyvern's chest. Not just one of them, but all the wyverns. Man, I don't know how they made those energy drills or whatever, but I know our boy's leveling up like crazy again as usual. The hunters are kind of in disbelief and Manus tells them to snap out of it and help finish off the rest. Haruto gives the order for the golems to go back into the ground and clear the rest too. It was time for auto level up to kick in. Taikeuchi's fighting nearby too. While watching the creatures, he thinks that even though the little guys looked weak, they were actually super useful. That's when suddenly, one latches onto his back and then like 3 or 4 more pile on and hug him. He's kinda confused. Satoru says that because he's wearing that armor, the golems probably see him as an ally. Taikeuchi asks if his shield is a golem too. Satoru explains that yeah, it was actually the first gift he got from Haruto, and if it keeps leveling up, it'll eventually turn into full-body armor. Of course, Taikeuchi doesn't like that at all. Face to face with another creature, he says to himself that his armor is nothing like those things. He cuts through like 3 enemies in a row while saying not to lump him in with that trash. Satoru apologizes, saying he didn't mean it like that. Meanwhile, Lucas is over by the defeated dragons, looking kinda lost. Now he finally understands the power of Troll plus C. The kid had taken down all the wyverns by himself. What scared him the most was imagining what would happen if Michael ever got that ability. Just then, Haruto shows up calling out to him, asking who's the guy that opened the subspace. But Lucas says his family's in danger, so he can't betray those people. Haruto says he knows Lucas is hiding something he doesn't want to tell him. He's had that feeling ever since they first met. Lucas lowers his head and says he'll tell him that the chaos hasn't even really started yet. And then suddenly the ground beneath them starts breaking apart, and a ton of tree roots start rising up. It looks like Haruto's being absorbed, and Lucas recognizes it as a mid-shield ability. If that guy's already using something like this, maybe things aren't going so well for them after all. Plus, Lucas could use the advantage of having the sacred sword to purify that place along with Sano. But right then, some of the roots grab his arms and legs. Oh man, now he's stuck with his arm up like that. And it's looking like they're gonna steal his sword. Total chump move for sure. The roots are now taller than any building in the city. The hunters have no idea what's going on, but Nanist is sure. By the way, things are developing again. Whoever's behind this is close by. That's when she ran into Mid-Shield up ahead and wondered what the hell the elf was doing there. I had honestly forgotten about the whole fight going on right now between Shirosaki and Kurosaki. Our Harry Potter lookalike was kinda confused cause his ability was acting weird. Kurosaki explains that a person needs to overcome their addiction to dark mana before they can even start to control it. The tattooed guy doesn't really get what he's talking about, but he charges anyway, slamming into Kurosaki's barrier. Mana didn't last a second. It shattered instantly. But apparently, he managed to bounce the attack back. Shirosaki is spooked. This bastard actually knows a way to survive the poisoning from dark mana. If that's really possible, then maybe, just maybe, his brother Sota might still be alive somehow. He backs off and Kurosaki says he doesn't know what's going through his head, but he better focus on the fight. Also, absorbing and controlling dark mana isn't something just anyone can do. Era's comments on something and Shirosaki says yeah, he noticed his black lightning mana had been absorbed. That's when Kurosaki fires off a purple slash for the both of them, but it seems to pass right between them and they dodge pretty easily. The building behind them? Absolutely shredded, but at least they're fine. Still, the bastard's celebrating, saying their abilities have become useless now. He charges again and suddenly, his sword and legs start to freeze. That was Era's doing, and Shirosaki wants to know if she managed to fix that debuff that blocked mana usage. She replies, no, not exactly. As always, it's probably that damn Haruto, pumping out infinite mana for everyone. She's only using about half of her full power, but it seemed to be enough to stop that guy. Kurosaki, however, hears that infinite mana bit. Instantly, he breaks the ice and Eras realizes, yep, half her power's not gonna cut it. Even so, she throws out another attack. Kurosaki tells her to stop, but those half-baked attacks already cause the outcome's always gonna be the same. He walks right through her spell and says he's the guild master of the Blood Tower Guild. Honestly, That guild of his sounds kind of busted and sad. Not much to brag about. He goes into land to hit on Erez, but she throws up a bunch of magic circles to block it. She warns him that a human-made barrier won't work. He just absorbs any kind of mana and gets stronger. Damn, this guy is broken. He breaks through her shield and even pulls her toward him. But she's not backing down that easily. She whips out a scroll, tears it in half, and puts up another barrier. At least this time, he says that one's incompatible with his mana. But even without absorbing it, he still blows it apart with a simple attack. Shirasaki jumps back into the fight. Here he comes, throwing lightning around again, even though you'd think he'd know by now the guy can absorb it. At least before he absorbs it, it knocks him back a little. And that's when Erez launches another ice explosion. Man, this Kurosaki guy is weak, like even with all his absorption, and while the other two are still debuffed, he's getting his butt kicked. Then Shirasaki drops the hammer, saying it's way too early for some low-level gang leader to call himself a guild master. Now he demands Kurosaki tell him where he got the Shadow Step ability from, or else dying will be the easy part. Kurosaki just grins and says now he gets why the guy's been looking for him. Must be a question he's been dying to ask. Shirasaki goes cold and tells him to answer now or die. But the guy just ignores him completely and says he heard something really interesting from Lucas. Bro, no one in this story finishes his sentence. He starts saying something, then out of nowhere blasts out some purple power, mixed with ice, and traps Shirasaki. Suddenly, Shirasaki finds himself on the ground, frozen, and when he looks down, he sees his brother from back then, poisoned and dying. And just when it's getting heavy, the scene shifts. Back to Midshield, walking up to Lucas, who's tied up, and asking if he really became buddies with Mr. Troll Plus C. Before Lucas could even answer, a guy snatches the sacred sword and says he'd been looking forward to getting his hands on it. After all, it's super important to the plan. Lucas, the poor sucker, only now realizes he was kept around from the start just because of the sword. Midshield replies that of course he was, because the power of Troll Plus F is essential to help Troll Plus C, and he needs to combine Troll Plus C's power with the sword to save his homeland. Then he says now that he's got what he wanted, he's gonna tell Lucas everything. In the elves' dimension, everyone is cursed, and he's one of them. Lucas, confused, asks if that means he's trying to steal Troll Plus C from the kid. Midshield says that, unfortunately, because he's from another dimension, he can't absorb a curse that belongs to this one. However, if he kills the kid right now, the power will transfer to Lucas. That's because the curse, when its host dies, jumps to the nearest person who also has a control power. Once Lucas is stuck there with Troll Plus C, Mikal's gonna show up, kill him, and absorb everything. Poor Lucas is hit by the reality. He's been nothing but a disposable pawn since day one. But just then, bam, a cloud of smoke appears behind Midshield. Haruto shows up, saying he overheard something real interesting. He goes in for a strike, but Midshield manages to block it. Then he fires off an attack with vines, saying it's funny that Haruto copied the shadow ability. Haruto shoots back, saying he knows Midshield's the bastard who opened those portals in Tokyo. He unleashes his sand-based attack, but Midshield isn't all that impressed. Says Haruto's just wasting his talent. The webs close in on him, but he uses branches to shield himself and says that won't even leave a scratch. But Haruto answers that strength doesn't come from the ability itself. It's all about how you use it. With that, he activates both the Kalisha Sword's power and the Bear Claws. The webs tear through the roots, but Midshield escapes. He's impressed, but says he expected Haruto to act desperate. After all, this is the strongest curse of them all. Haruto suddenly appears behind him from above, asking if he's speechless now after seeing how he fights. The bastard dodges and says no. He's actually even more eager to steal his power. But Haruto grabs him by the shoulder and says that's exactly what he wanted. From the start, he's been after the guy's subspace. But when the system tries to locate it, nothing. No subspace found. Midshield grabs his arm and says, unfortunately, nothing can be copied from him. Then he tosses Haruto like a rag doll and slaps him in the face with a tentacle. I've definitely heard that line in another kind of story, but let's not go there. Lucas is sitting there, facing his hands like a total clown. Bro, how many times are you gonna wonder if you were used like a pawn? This is like the 6th time. Well, okay, to be fair, the dude's a wreck. After losing the Sacred Sword's power, he can't control Troll Plus F anymore. That means an overwhelming flood of information is now crashing into his mind. At that moment, he starts wondering why Midshield and Troll Plus C are even connected. What's that guy trying to do here? And is that huge thing in front of him the subspace Midshield controls? He's almost able to see Midshield's subspace now, like physically, and he's asking himself why it's so huge. That's when he realizes the subspace and the sword seem kind of similar. Maybe the guy's using another type of item. That would explain why Haruto couldn't copy it. He was trying to mimic the ability, but that wasn't the right move. Anyway, we're back in the fight with the sword-snatching villain. He's telling Harry Potter that he'll be trapped in the abyss forever. at least until someone kills him. Then he launches an attack at Erez, asking if she's Nishihara's daughter. She stretches her arm out and throws up an ice barrier, but once again, he smashes through it. That's when he says that clearly he'll need to change his approach. On his next attack, he pulls off some Tokyo Ghoul-style moves, but she dodges. The problem is, he anticipated the dodge and was already right beside her swinging the sword again. But this girl is packing serious mana and throws up yet another ice shield. Kurosaki remarks that her determination to find her mother almost brings him to tears. But Era's not here for the drama. She's about to drop the hammer. She says the most dangerous people are usually the dumbest. But she's not losing. Not today. Because only those who've mastered one single thing are truly strong. As Bruce Lee would say, I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. I think that's how it goes, right? That's the legend. And when she's been practicing her whole life, man, her ice magic, it's next level now. She drops a freaking building-sized ice meteor right on Kurosaki's head. The thing explodes in the middle of the city. Snowstorms spreading everywhere. Bro, we're in full-on ice apocalypse now. Even Kurosaki is shook, asking if she's insane for letting off that kind of attack in the middle of a city. But when he tries to get up, he's already half frozen. Erez walks over and tells him not to worry. Everyone had already been evacuated. She adds that she knows Shirosaki, just like her, master is single ability too. Kurosaki's expression changes the moment our tattooed Harry Potter shows up, man. He realizes there's no way out now. And weirdly, Shirosaki's eyes are glowing purple. He's using dark mana. The bastard wants to know how he absorbed abyss mana and still looks normal. Shirosaki just says he made a promise that he'd be the one to kill him. Then bam, he slashes with his wand, sending a wave that cuts right through the guy. No way did he just get sliced clean in half. Don't tell me this bastard's gonna pull some comeback anyway. Erez asks if there wasn't something Shirosaki wanted to ask Kurosaki. But now the dude's full of Demon King swag, saying he already got all the info he needed. Sending him to the abyss was the worst mistake he could have made. Because once he got there and watched it, he figured out how to beat the addiction to abyss mana. The dark abilities Kurosaki had, they were the key. He remembers Sona once brought a book that talked about a dark ability, said maybe they should learn it, could be useful. Of course, he didn't want to go there. Messing with dark mana wasn't exactly a great idea. But back in the present, he trusts that Sona was smart enough to find the solution and survive somehow. And with that, he launches into the sky, telling Erez they've got to go help Haruto right away. He'll explain everything to her later. For now, just having a little hope again was already enough. Meanwhile, Haruto is still in the middle of his fight with the femboy elf Midshield, who's now losing his mind over all the teleporting. Says he's gonna seal that damn ability. He lands a hit near Haruto's foot with the sacred sword. The sword shines, does something, and then Midshield announces that from now on, all dark mana abilities are useless. Haruto charges forward, thinking if Midshield canceled his dark mana powers, then his should be canceled too, right? But nope, Midshield says it's no problem at all to control mana that's already been nullified. And with that, he grabs Haruto by the waist and moves in for the finisher. But our guy pulls through, blocks another attack. His sword breaks, light completely shatters. But that doesn't matter. Curl plus V-time, baby. He pulls out the Kalisha sword. Now, real question here. Why weren't you using this sword since the beginning, you Luminic? Midshield immediately recognizes it, says it's a copy of Frederick's sword. Haruto just says yup and fires a beam of light straight at him. The elf blocks it, saying that just as expected, the power of that sword is incredible. Haruto charges in again, saying that that's not going to be enough. But just as he's coming in with an overhead slash, Midshield's expression suddenly shifts. A portal opens up behind him, and bam, he vanishes right in front of Haruto. Next second, he appears behind him and lands a little stab to the shoulder. And the bastard actually says, just because you leveled up with that sword doesn't mean you've got the experience to back it up. Haruto, though, doesn't give a damn what this guy's saying. He's only interested in figuring out how to steal this bastard's abilities. He grabs a potion from his inventory, but the system warns him. Wounds caused by this sacred sword can't be healed. Midshield chuckles and says he knew those potions wouldn't work. He lands another hit on Haruto and asks what else he can copy. You're the one with Troll plus C. Don't tell me you're already out of tricks. Haruto just replies, of course not. Things are only getting started. Then suddenly, slash. A cut comes in from Midshield's side. He tries to defend but gets launched across the area. Worst of all, his sword falls to the ground. And just as he's trying to recover, boom, hellfire rains down, forcing him to raise vines to shield himself. And with that blue flame, you already know who it is, right? The one and only Nanis. Haruto thanks her, and she says that thanks to his golems, nearly all the monsters had already been wiped out. Haruto kind of already knew. He hadn't stopped gaining XP this whole time. after all. Then Lucas steps forward and picks up the sacred sword. He says today's the day Midshield pays for everything he did to him and his family. Nanos' fire keeps burning the vines and Midshield slips into a portal, grumbling that this hellfire power really is something else. But it's not like it's gonna last. He fires off an attack made of roots toward the two of them. Nanos responds without hesitation, saying it won't be hard to burn all those corrupted trees. But Midshield doesn't let up. He launches more roots from above, trying to trap her in a cage of vines. She slices through it easily with one more slash from her witch's blade. Before the idiot can figure out how to counter her, boom! Haruto appears right behind him, saying he's still alive. He lands a slash that looks like it hits hard. But when the smoke clears, Midshield steps out of another portal. I'm done playing around, he says. It's time to move on to the final chapter. The ground beneath them starts to break apart. Countless seeds from the corrupted trees begin to sprout. Nanos tries to destroy them with another blast, but the moment the seeds break, a purple mist starts spreading out. Midshield announces that this mist is 10 times more toxic than the previous ones. Anyone who touches it becomes addicted to dark mana instantly, and the more they attack, the more they use the surrounding mana, the worse it'll get. Sano starts thinking that maybe he should have copied the sacred sword after all, even if it meant giving up his shadow movement skill. But just then, Lucas slams the sword into the ground. A radiant light bursts from the area. The mist starts to fade away, dispersing in all directions. Lucas stands there, full Chad mode, holding the glowing blade. Nanos and Haruto watch while Midshield starts losing it, yelling, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" He sends another barrage of vines at them, but Lucas keeps walking forward. He says, "You betrayed me first. I don't care anymore." As he moves toward Midshield, the elf sneers, asking if Lucas doesn't care about his family anymore. But Lucas just leaps forward, shouting that he's sick of being a tool in someone else's hands. He activates the Angelus spear attack, but once again, the Dan elf blocks it. And of course, he starts slipping into another portal, bragging that nothing can even scratch him. But Lucas calls out to him, "You're not getting away. I want to see what happens when a dark mana user gets pierced by the sacred sword." Lucas is forced to dodge the attack. The sword actually shatters the portal Midshield was using. But even so, the elf lands a follow-up root strike straight to Lucas's chest. Still, the portal really was destroyed. Nanos calls it, he's got nowhere left to run. This is the end. Midshield actually looks worried now. He knows if he gets hit by the hellfire in this state, he's in real danger. He raises more roots for defense, but Nanos' flames are spreading across the entire city. It's getting out of control. That's when Lucas calls out to Sano and says he finally figured out why Haruto hasn't been able to copy Michio's abilities. It's because they're not abilities at all. It's an item, just like the sacred sword. And most likely it's an item that connects him to another dimension. Makes sense. Dude's clearly not from Earth. Nanos wants to know how he's even staying in this world. Passing through a dungeon break like that should cost a ton of mana just to survive here. Lucas says he's well aware of that, which means this guy is using something, either an item or some other ability, to stay anchored. Haruto, meanwhile, is thrilled with that info. Now he knows the reason he couldn't copy anything. It's because he hasn't touched the right item yet. That brings up the question, though, why is Lucas suddenly helping them? Lucas answers, it's out of respect, because Haruto had the chance to kill him and steal Troll plus F, but didn't. Haruto thinks to himself, of course he wouldn't just kill someone like that to take a power. Nanos, who overheard everything, is now demanding to know what all this control and copying stuff is. Also, why is Lucas using the sacred sword? That sword was supposed to be delivered to Ares. Haruto's caught off guard, doesn't even know where to start explaining. But right then, from the middle of the flames, more branches burst out. Midshield is back, barely alive, looking wrecked, but still standing. The problem is, something's different. Midshield had absorbed the mana of the roots into himself, and now, completely unhinged, he's screaming. The real disaster starts now. Haruto dodges the first crazed strike and yells to Nanos to hit him with the hellfire. Lucas says he can use the light again too if needed. Haruto goes in first, asking them to block the guy's vision. Nanos unleashes a vertical wave of flame, walling off the area. While the elf is distracted, Haruto focuses. He's trying to figure out exactly which item holds the abilities. He touches one of the corrupted roots, and the system tells him, you need 2 more pieces to absorb the ability and vitality of Yggdrasil. He tries Troll plus V, and another message pops up. Target HP, 15%. Haruto realizes this same alert is probably appearing for Midshield too, which means the guy's on the verge of collapse. He uses Troll plus V on the first batch of roots, and they turn golden. Midshield is thrown off. Did that bastard just copy the corrupted tree I was using? But right then, Lucas drops in from above, telling him it's not the time to worry about that. Midshield tries to use the trunk ability, but the system denies him. Roots of Yggdrasil not available. He's confused and nearly gets smacked in the back of the head by a flaming whip. He dodges, but it still hits him in the chest. He tries to open a subspace with his other hand, but Lucas immediately warns Haruto, don't let him open it. Haruto fuses the copied root ability with his spider webs and bare claws, immobilizing both of the elf's arms. Man's a walking combo now, spider, tree, bear, he's got the whole build going. Nana says that when someone crosses into this world from another dimension, they become an enemy, and it's her job to eliminate them. The blonde elf scoffs, calling it ridiculous that he's being treated like a monster. She smiles and tells him not to worry because she likes finishing off monsters quickly. Then she fires off another blast of hellfire, engulfing the entire street in roaring flames. Bro, what the hell? He really got fried this time. No way he's walking out of that. Nanas even congratulates him, saying it's impressive he still has the strength to scream. But then Midshield's expression twists and he says, if I can't purify the land I came from, then I'll leave this place just as ruined. Lucas yells, begging him not to do it. But out of nowhere, a giant space pillar of light shoots into the sky. Midshield calmly states, now the whole of Tokyo is in danger, and I couldn't care less. Right in front of Haruto, a massive subspace forms, and he realizes his chance to get something like that is slipping away. So what does he do? He charges, straight up impales the guy in the gut. Brutal. But he used too much force and ends up falling into the rift himself. His friends call out to him, but Haruto is already drifting through some dark place full of floating stars, wondering if this is the subspace contained in the item. He crouches down, thinking maybe physical contact will do the trick. As soon as his hand touches the ground, the system chimes in. Curl plus C available. You may copy this subspace. But just as he confirms the command, the system hits in with a warning. This is an item connected to another dimension. An exact copy is not possible. Haruto is sitting there, confused. What's all this talk about another dimension? Still, he manages to copy part of the dimension, but he can only access a limited section of it, unless he gets his hands on a dimensional key. Then the system starts syncing with the copied subspace, and suddenly he realizes he can open it like an inventory. Curl plus C, Curl plus V, level of access, the whole interface. Even I'm starting to lose track a bit here, but you just know all these pieces are gonna click together eventually. It's building towards something. Midshield says he can't believe Haruto's Curl plus he can even copy items from another dimension. But now it makes sense. These fragments are technically items now. Haruto ignores him, and just wants to know why he's doing all this. Cue the villain backstory. The Femboy elf says his homeland is on the brink of extinction. He stole the dimensional key from the fallen spiritual king. Haruto's like, wait, is that the guy I need to kill to finish copying this subspace? But Midshield tells him to forget it. That guy's the one who led his world to ruin. Right when he was about to be killed by him, he managed to steal a fragment and teleport away. And that's the only reason he's still alive. Haruto asks how this supposed ability became an item. Midshield explains he used a curse, just like the one Haruto has, but this one came from his own dimension. And oh my god, he has the curse of shift. Now whether that's shift like the keyboard key or shift like dimension hopping, we don't even know. Probably both. Honestly, this author must just glance at his keyboard when naming skills. Curl plus C, Curl plus F, shift, perfect, done. That's when Takeuchi shows up in full armor, followed by a horde of tiny golems and Masato calling out from behind. Nana smiles, and then the captain arrives, reporting that all the monsters in the area have been wiped out. Takeuchi's about to mention that there was something left in another part of the city, but bam, Shirosaki steps in, saying it's already handled. Right away, Nanas asks what happened to Kurosaki. Shirosaki, with his purple eyes glowing, says, that bastard didn't want to be captured, so I had to kill him. Nanas notices something's a little off about him, but still compliments the job. Masato wants to know where the hell Haruto is. Nana says he's inside that dimension along with that elf. Masato warns it's dangerous, but Nanas reassures him the elf was practically dead, so Haruto's probably fine. Lucas, on the other hand, says they need to seal the portal now before even more powerful creatures start showing up. Takeuchi looks over at Lucas and asks, and who's this new blonde guy, and why the hell is he holding the sacred sword? Bro, he's really toast now. No way he's making it out alive. Nanas instantly says this guy was working with the Dan elf. Of course, Takeuchi doesn't take that well. He grabs Lucas by the neck and demands to know why a hunter from a noble family was helping someone from another dimension. Lucas answers he'll take full responsibility for all his actions. Takeuchi glares and throws him to the ground, saying that once this is over, his family will have a lot to answer for. Lucas gets up without a word and dashes toward the dimension portal, saying they have to seal it before that creature appears. Back inside, Haruto is stunned to learn that other worlds have their own curses. Midshield admits he was shocked too, and it's a shame he can only use shift on abilities. But now he wants to know, Control plus C steal something truly exclusive to another dimension? Now it all makes sense to Harugo. That's why they were hunting him down. And Midshield says that once Michael steals Control plus C, he's going to open a portal between the two worlds and bring the damn Grimoire right here. The plan almost worked 15 years ago if it weren't for Nishihara interfering. Haruno tells him it looks like the plan failed again. So why are you talking like you've won? Still burning, Midshield starts to fade. It doesn't matter if I die here, nothing changes. And then, bam, a massive claw crushes his body out of nowhere. Haruto is thrown back, and when he gets up and looks, a giant dragon looms overhead. He's stunned. Why the hell is this thing inside the subspace? He sees the blood pool. No doubt about it, Midshield's actually dead. But if this thing gets out into Tokyo, yeah, it's gonna be a nightmare. The dragon swipes at him, he dodges and starts running, trying to figure out where the hell the exit is. Then a light bursts from below. Lucas appears and tells him not to worry. The creatures in subspace are weak to the sacred sword. Haruto asks what he's gonna do, but before Lucas can answer, the dragon roars, knocks him flying, and he drops the sword. Welp, so much for that they're weak theory. Haruto sees the guy got wrecked, and the sword is just lying there. The dragon's closing in, and he's about to be stomped into paste. And here comes our boy. He rushes in, slams Control plus B. Now he's got to make a decision. Pull the sword, or like this video that helps Momoro make more juicy content for his viewers, activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out.